Town meeting reps, please take your seats. All right, we're going to begin the town meeting. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, John. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2024. I now call to order the third session of the 2024 annual town meeting of the town of Stoughton. This meeting is now in session. This town meeting is being held in person at the Stoughton High School Auditorium at 232 Pearl Street in Stoughton. This meeting is also broadcast live through the Stoughton Media Access Corporation and also being recorded for future broadcasting. Please rise and stand if you are able and join me in pledging allegiance to our national flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Back on Monday evening, May 6th, I introduced everybody all the town officials. Again this evening, we have Kate Federoff, Attorney Kate Federoff from the law firm of Mead, Talaman, and Costa. Kate's joining us this evening. Also joining us this evening is Deputy Town Moderator Carmel Drews is down here on the main table. Okay, thank you. Just another note, Select Board Member Joe McCrisky is traveling to Chicago for business this week, will not be able to join us at all this week. All right. All right, now I ask any town meeting reps that have not been sworn in yet. Has everyone been? Okay. Please silence your phones. Turn them down or turn them off, whatever is easier for you. Also, again, are there any town meeting reps that need to be sworn in? Everybody's been sworn in? If you haven't, please raise your hand. We'll get you sworn in right away. Seeing no one? All right, we're going to move on. All right, to ascertain whether we have a quorum to proceed with the annual town meeting, I'll ask each precinct chair for the number of town meeting reps in their precinct. All right, let's start. Let's begin. Juan Fox, Precinct 1. 11, Precinct 1. George Delinsky, Precinct 2. 17 for Precinct 2. Matt Callis, Precinct 3. 16. Julie Gito, Precinct 4. 20, Precinct 4. For Precinct 5, 13. 13, Precinct 5. Bob Kirby, Precinct 6. 18 for Precinct 6. Diane Dolan for Precinct 7. 17 for Precinct 7. And David Sheehan, Precinct 8. 19 for Precinct 8. All right, let's provide a few minutes for the town clerk's office to tally the number of town meeting reps present in the auditorium. All right, Acting Town Clerk Samantha Rigo reports 131. 131 town meeting reps are present, and our quorum is 85. I declare a quorum is present. All right, the first order of business, like every evening, we have to test our clickers and make sure they're working. We don't want someone down the road determining that the clicker's not working, they didn't get a chance to vote. Are we ready to vote? Please vote 1, 2, or 3 right now. And you should be able to look at your clicker, and it should say something to you every now and then on the screen. It won't talk to you, but it will show something on the screen. Does anybody have a problem with their clicker? We good? Okay, we're going to move on. Yep. All right, just a couple of reminders. Procedural motions that were moved and voted in on Monday, May 6th, remain in effect. Also, as we go forward in the warrants, couple of the consent, when we did the consent agenda, only 2 articles were passed that evening, so we'll deal with those articles as they appear in the warrants. Again, if a motion has a positive recommendation, the article's motion is read by the Finance Committee Chair, and it will be seconded. All right, so we left off, we completed Article 7. The first article up this evening is Article 8, the Sewer Department Enterprise Fund Budget, which appears on page 32. I just want to remind people, since these enterprise funds, the actual detailed budget, if you have any questions on the detailed budget, now's the time to bring them up during the discussion of these enterprise funds. Otherwise, the enterprise fund and the budget, like the sewer budget, will be closed, correct? Correct. And the sewer budget appears in your warrant books on pages 56 through 58. All right, everybody understand that? So if you have any questions at all on the enterprise fund or budget, now's the time after we'll hear the motion, we'll get a second. Now's the time after that, pretty much after that article's motion and moved, is to ask questions about the sewer enterprise fund and its budget. All right, so at this point in time, this is Article 8, Sewer Department Enterprise Fund, again on page 32 for those people just arriving. I am going to ask Vaughn Anokian for the motion, please.
That the town vote pursuant to the provision of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and 1/2, to appropriate the sum of $8,887,548 to fund the sewer department for fiscal year 2025, with $8,887,548 to be raised from FY 2025 sewer enterprise revenue.
Second. Okay, seconded by John Anzavino. Finance Committee report, please.
Finance Committee voted 12-0 to recommend the motion for Article 8 as written in the warrant.
All right, I believe we have a presentation this evening. Mr. McNulty, could you introduce yourself to the town meeting, please? Just slide it towards you, and it takes a couple of seconds to activate.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Phil McNulty, Water and Sewer Superintendent. So I'll keep it brief and just summarize. Salaries are up 2.9%, mostly contractual. Expenses are up 2.4%, and most of that is within line item MWA assessment, which is $5.95 million at the current budget. The overall budget is up 2.3%, and again, 1.6% of that is within the MWA assessment. The number of employees and the FTEs, full-time equivalents, are the same as last year. With that, I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McNulty. All right, this is the time for technical question period. Please come to the microphone and ask your technical questions. Again, reminder, 2 questions per town meeting rep. The moderator always reserves the opportunity to cut that down. It's a lot of people in line, just to make a more efficient meeting. Mr. Eric Coleman, I see you're up. Please identify yourself, please.
Eric Coleman, Precinct 5, on the chart in 33 in the gray area above the third column and the fourth column. There's no word there. Should it be estimated? Page 33 in the top, to the right of actual of 2023.
Mr. Coleman, could you repeat your question for me, please?
Yes. On page 33, the top line, the gray part, you got revenue actual, and then there's two blanks going to the right. Should that be estimated on those two blanks?
Okay, the next two columns?
Yes.
Okay. You see that, Mr. McNulty?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes,
I'll take this question.
Yes.
Okay.
Please
to-
introduce
through you
yourself,
to the
please.
board.
Yes.
Sorry, Elizabeth Selesky, Finance Director for the town of Stoughton. And yes, the town meeting member is correct. It should say estimated. All revenues are estimated on the budgets.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4.
Was Lisa?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Pat. You're okay, Lisa, if she goes? Pat, go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, we raised the rates for water, sewer, and trash after town meeting. So we voted the budgets to cover any subsidies, and then we increased the rates. So we basically double funded, again, if I'm not mistaken, those three budgets. So I'd like to know where all of that extra money is. Is it in retained earnings? How has that been accounted for?
So you want to take that, please?
Mr. Moderator, to the body, again, Elizabeth Selesky,
Sure,
Finance
thank you.
Director. Once we close out the fiscal year 2024, anything that is in excess goes out to retained earnings, which follows the same process as free cash.
So we see nothing in this book yet? There's no way that we can tell what all that extra funding was?
No, it will close out at the end of June 30. It's a process once the year is complete. If you're looking to know what your retained earnings were at the end of last fiscal year, for the sewer department, the retained earnings as certified by the Department of Revenue was $905,992.
Because I see under FY24, it's $388,000. And that's why I didn't know if that included any of that. So I just have to be patient and trust the process that all of that extra funding will be returned.
Yes, legally it goes straight back to an enterprise fund. It cannot go anyplace else.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Lisa Lyons. Please identify yourself, please.
So it's Lisa Lyons, Precinct 2. So I just have a general question. Can you help clarify the difference between the sewer and the water piping and how they relate? It's all underground. I get that much. Thank you.
That's for sure.
That I get too.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. So in terms of public relations, that's a problem we have because most of our infrastructure is underground or it's in the woods that nobody sees, but it's all there. So in your typical street, you'll have a 6 or 8 inch or 12-inch water pipe that supplies water to each of the houses, and then, in reverse, the discharge, whatever you flush or gray water goes to the sewer pipes, which there's 4 different generations, went from clay to asbestos to RCP, and now it's PVC currently. So there's a lot of different ages and types of each of the water and sewer pipes. So one of the problems of a typical New England town is just that the infrastructure is getting old. And, Stoughton falls into that medium to old New England town category.
Am I correct that it's over 110 years old?
We probably have 30 miles of over 100-year-old water pipes, and the sewer pipes are more like 80 and working sooner than that. So,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Bob Cohen, please identify yourself, please.
Bob Cohn, Precinct 5. On the Campanelli water hookups, how many have hooked up so far, or is the project done, number one?
This is sewer. Are you
Sewer.
asking?
Yes, sewer.
Okay, your question's on sewer hookup.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Sure, go right ahead.
So
Is it done?
Through you, Mr. Moderator. The infrastructure is not done. The pump station is the last, and that should be done this week. And then soon after that, unless, Mark, you want to speak to that, any week now, we'll be taking on those commercial industrial units down in Campanelli and Schumann.
Can I ask, has anyone applied for sewer down there?
I can answer that, Mr. Moderator.
Sure, go right ahead.
Mark Tisdale, Assistant Town Manager. That's a good question, Bob. I appreciate that. There's two parts of the Park Street Sewer Project. One part flows by gravity, and the other part involves a pump station, which is in the Campanelli Industrial Park. The gravity portion, there's been 5 or 6 properties already tied in to that portion. If you remember, the total Park Street project serviced about 75 properties. There's probably about 12 in the industrial park. Right when it goes live, which could be this week, the one at the end, the submarine company that produces submarine parts, they'll be tied in right away. The person who gave us the easement, they'll be tied in right away. That's at 175 Campanelli. And there's at least 2 or 3 others that will be tied in probably within a month or 2 after it goes live.
If I'm not mistaken, did he say the home is finishing off, so we don't have any home hookups yet?
The whole?
Homes. We went down side streets, and people were supposed to hook up to sewerage too.
Right, so the way the Park Street Sewer Project was designed was to have capacity for all the side streets. There's sewer stubs going down all the side streets, but through the public forum process, it was pretty obvious that all those property owners did not want the sewer extensions going down their streets until the mains were installed, so that's the approach we took.
Is that part of the budget to get down these side streets?
Mr. Cohen, you're asking numerous questions now.
Well, it relates to what I'm talking about.
I'll let you finish up, and that would be it, okay?
I just want to know, those stubs going down these streets?
There
You
are
said
stub-
you talked about, when we talked about the sewers, we talked about we were going to hook people up on these streets. The money that we appropriated, was that part of hooking these people up on the street? Or just leaving stubs
If you
and
can
going
answer
to
that,
camp?
Mr. Tisdale, go.
Sure,
Feel free.
not a problem. The money that was allocated is exactly as shown in the town meeting when it got approved. There was about 75 properties that were allocated to be connected to the mains. So the project actually designed sewer for the mains on Park Street, goes down 10th and Campanelli, and provided sewer stubs for every side street in that area. So if a street wanted to come in and get sewer, they would petition town meeting, and then they would go through the betterment process pending a town meeting approval.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with technical questions on this article? If not, we're going to move into pro and con debate. Comments? Anybody? Going once, going twice. Okay, I think we're ready to vote. This is on Article 8. Please vote now. Are we ready? Okay, stand by, please. This is just going to be simple majority. Yeah, you're going to have to start again. There's instructions that were handed out the other night if you need to kind of look at the clicker instructions. Are we ready? Let me know. We're ready. Please vote now. You have 20 seconds and counting down. All right, the motion passes. 122 yes, 10 no, 1 abstention. Declare that a vote. We're moving on. All right, next up is Article 9, the Water Department Enterprise Fund Budget. It appears on page 34 of your warrant books. Also, again, if you want to talk about the budget on the Water Department, which appears on page 153 to 155 in your warrant books, now's the time. Once this article passes, that department will be closed also. All right, so I can have the presentation, Mr. McNulty. Excuse me, hold on. I'm jumping ahead, just trying to move this meeting along. I need the motion first.
That the town vote pursuant to the provisions of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and 1/2, to appropriate the sum of $6,518,586 to fund the Water Department for fiscal year 2025, with $5,888,586 to be raised from FY 2025 Water Department enterprise revenue and $200,000 from retained earnings and $430,000 from the MWRA Infrastructure Fund.
Second. Okay, motion's been made and seconded by John Zamino. Can I have the Finance Committee report, please?
The Finance Committee voted 12-0 to recommend the motion for Article 9 as written in the warrant.
Thank you very much. All right, now the presentation, Mr. McNulty.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, through you. Once again, I'll just summarize briefly. The salaries are up 7.9%. The expenses are up 2.3%, and the overall budget is up 10%. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, but 8% of that 10 is within the debt service, which has increased about $500,000. I'd like to make a quick comment about that $500,000. Over the last 6 to 8 years, this body here in the town has decided to invest in their own infrastructure, in their own water sources. As a result, that debt service is starting to show up now. The alternative would be to continue on MWRA, which would be $1.5 million right now. So it's still a net savings of $1 million. So it's financially, it still looks like a good investment. So although it looks like a big increase, the alternative would be a lot worse. And that's about all I'll say for
Okay,
now.
well, thank you very much, Mr. McNulty. Any questions, technical questions? Mr. Bob Cohen? Again, please identify yourself.
Bob Pone, Precinct 5. You said salaries are up 7.9?
That's correct.
Could you give me a more definite how that breaks down, please?
It includes one new employee. FTEs went up 0.4. You might say, what's 0.4? That's if, for example, if I'm one person, I work 50% water, 50% sewer. That's 0.5, 0.5. So there's a 0.4 increase in the number of personnel working in water.
Does that represent that 7.9?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is David Laurie. Please identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. David Lurie, Precinct 6. Thank you. Through you. Simple question. I'm not sure whether Phil's the right person to answer. So a simple question. Have we already paid off our connection into the MWRA? That was a large debt number, I believe was scheduled to come off either recently or soon to be falling off.
So through you, Mr. Moderator, there used to be 3 line items for the MWRA. There was the pay off the construction loan. Then there was pay off the, I call it the join the club, the initiation of the MWRA. So both of those are now paid off. And those are substantial numbers in the 400,000s per year. So the only one we have left is the 1.5 I spoke of, which we used to pay. But now we got that down to about 100,000. So
Down to 100,000, so it's almost zeroed out at this point. So it's basically fallen off,
Yeah.
what you're saying.
it's fallen off as far as it can fall off.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Lisa Lyons. Please identify yourself.
Lisa Lyons, Precinct 2. So I don't know who answers this question. So I have a future upcoming motion that may affect this department. So given what you said a little while ago in terms of once this budget closes out, so I'm not sure when does that come into play before this closes out?
Well, it's probably best to take it on now.
If I may, Mr.
Oh, I'm
Moderator?
sorry. I guess is it an amendment
Article
to the
24.
or a motion on the actual sewer budget inside the operating budget?
It's Article 24.
I'm sorry, in the water budget? I'm sorry.
It will affect more than one budget. It will affect more than one department's budget, the motion. You read it, right?
Yeah, is that
Okay,
regarding putting money in the I and I or
It's
something?
the one that's on the virtual table.
That's the one,
Yes,
putting
yes.
money in the I and I?
Yep, so I'm just trying to ask, I don't
Sure,
know if
just,
it's,
let me
go
just confer with town council for a minute. Okay, okay. Would you want to just say that to these people?
So to the extent that your motion intends to increase the water budget using other funds from another budget, I think it's best to hold on a motion to approve this article until after the operating budget happens. And you can talk about both simultaneously.
okay, I just wanted to make sure that before we close this, it didn't get precluded from getting into this budget.
Yeah, so we shouldn't vote on this one right yet, then
So
until
hold
after
off
the
on the
operating.
motion.
Yeah, that's what I would
You
do.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Of course, Mr. Calder.
To town council, unless I'm mistaken, and that happens quite often every day, we can't take money out of one department and put it into an enterprise fund, can we?
You can subsidize an enterprise account using general fund money. You just can't take water funds and put it into the general fund. You can't do the reverse.
But you can do the opposite?
Yes?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just learned something.
You have a technical,
I got a, yeah.
Point of order?
Question as far as.
please identify yourself.
John Enzavino, Precinct 4. I thought the alternative, or the amended motion that was put forth had to do with the I. Is that true?
I believe
Or
so.
is there another one out there? Because if it's the I, that's a separate article. It has nothing to do with the water budget.
Oh, where is the I and I located?
Article
In an
24.
Article 24.
It's not within any budget?
Article 24.
Okay, I know it's an article.
That's it. Article 24. It's the I.
Lisa, would you be able to rise for a second to the microphone, just for clarification, just so we,
Unless
Mr. Moderator, we treat it as a capital item.
excuse me, Mr. Calder?
We treat it as a capital item, so it would be coming from an operating department to a capital item in the water department, or excuse me,
In its
sewer
own department? Is it in sewer or is it in?
it's an article that we treat as a capital.
Okay, it's a separate article?
Yes.
Correct? Okay, I and I, inflow and infiltration. That's what you're saying, Lisa, right?
Okay,
We're just trying to clarify. It's a
and
little
I'm
different.
happy to do so, but
I saw the
that's why
article.
we're collaborating.
Right.
I'm thinking it's in Article 24, but I need help from the leaders here to tell me, is that inflow and infiltration? That's what I would be looking to increase, because that saves the town a massive amount of money on the Massachusetts Water Authority, money that is literally leaking thousands of dollars out of our pipes.
For clarification, you want to move money, your
I wanna
article, hang on a second, your article has to do with moving from one department that hasn't come up yet, that's in the operating budget, move X number of dollars to the I and I, which is Article 24. Right, and I'm understanding I and I is a separate total article, nothing to do with water or sewer, correct? All right, so we're good with the water department then.
And you can vote on it.
We're good, we can vote on it. Just for clarification, if you have any other, so we'll deal with your
I'm
article.
just making sure that we can do
Yeah.
that's proper. Okay,
That'd be proper.
Point of
Okay.
order, Mr. Moderator?
thank you.
Pat Colburn, go
Pat
ahead.
Colburn, Precinct 4. I'm sorry. Article 24 also says to meet this appropriation, $400,000 be transferred from sewer enterprise fund, and we already approved sewer. So I&I doesn't have anything with water, and I think the ship might have sailed on sewer if we already voted that, and she wanted $400,000 from it.
Mr. Moderator, if I could,
Yes, Mr. McNulty.
so I'm going to take a stab at this.
Yeah, Yeah,
Article
this is a little
8,
complicated.
Article 8 is just the sewer operating budget, so I don't think it's not gonna trickle into Article 24 I. That's its own independent article. Certainly wouldn't impact Article 9, which is the water operating budget. I think your question's gonna be, when Article 24 comes up, do you want it increased from 400,000 to some other number? But I don't believe you can take that number out of Article 8. Yeah,
Well-
that'd be,
We already voted sewer.
yeah. And it's already voted on, yeah.
Okay, the ruling is it's separate item. So we'll deal with that on a separate basis.
You just give me a wave when I'm supposed to
give
do
you
that.
two waves, okay?
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Everybody understand that? I understand I, Article 24 mentions sewer, but it's a separate article, to be safe on that, okay? All right, we're still dealing with Article 9, the Water Department. Ed, could you identify yourself, please? I believe it's on, say something.
Ed Quigley, Precinct 2. To you, to the presenter. Just a simple question. In response to a previous speaker, you said there were 30 miles of 100-year-old pipe in the water system. My question is, what is the total mileage of pipe in the system?
151 miles.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anybody else with technical questions? Mr. Dolinsky, please identify yourself to the town
George
meeting.
Zielinski, Precinct 2. The debt interest is up about $400,000 according to their chart. Can you explain why it's up that $400,000? And also, the short-term interest is up almost 3 times from previous years. Why is that?
That is short-term interest that we will potentially be paying for bands that we will be pulling to temporarily fund the projects going forward.
Say that again, please.
Short-term interest is used to fund bands or temporary borrowing until we go out to full borrowing, and that's the interest we're required to pay.
And the other one, the $400,000, the debt interest?
Debt interest is separate. That's for debt that we already have on the book. So you have short-term interest, which is equated to temporary borrowing, and you have regular interest, which is for long-term borrowing, which equates to your debt service value.
Sounds kind of strange, but all right, I'll go with what you said.
Any other questions? Mr. Dolinsky, you good? Okay, next up, Peter Murphy, please identify yourself.
Peter Murphy, Precinct 2. Not sure if this falls in line, but a while back we put money to redo the tower on Pleasant Street. Can you tell me where that project is?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, are you talking about the tank
tank.
painting projects?
You're going to reline it.
Yeah, we're going to repaint those inside now. It's on the master plan, so probably next year.
Probably? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none? Okay, time to move on to pro and con debate. Anybody? Comments? Anybody before we move on? And we're good to vote on this, right? Okay, this will be a majority vote. Can we put it up on the screen? Okay, please vote now. You have 20 seconds. Simple majority.
Can't do it all.
Okay, Article 9, motion passes, 129 yes, 8 no, 0 abstentions. I declare that a vote. All right, Next up is Article 10, that appears on page 36 in your warrant books. I'm going to recuse myself from this because I'm a member of the board for the Cable Access Company. Carmel Drews is standing in. Just a brief recess.
All right. Article 10, do we have the proposed motion?
That the town vote in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and 1/2, to appropriate the sum of $491,400 to fund the Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2025, with $491,400 to be raised from FY 2025 Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund revenue.
Second.
So seconded by John Ansavino.
The Finance Committee voted 11-0 to 1 to recommend the motion for Article 10 as written in the warrant. There's a note, David Lurie recused himself as he's a member of the SMAC board also. Thank you.
And presentation from Mr. Coulter or Ms. Zielinski?
The budget as presented is accurate. We are technically a enterprise fund, but it's also a pass-through fund. So any revenues that we receive from Comcast and Verizon for subscriber services gets passed through the town straight to SMAC. And we are confident that the revenues will be on target. We won't have any issues with a deficit in retained earnings or the account this fiscal year.
Thank you. Any technical questions? Y'all are making it very easy for me. Thank you. Oh, yes.
John Anzavino, Precinct 4. If I can, through you, Deputy Moderator, to the Finance Director. When we received the certified earnings or the retained earnings on these, the public access was in a deficit. Can you explain how that happened?
Madam Temporary Moderator, Finance Director Elizabeth Selesky. Yes, I can explain how that happened. When we close out the books, it's not necessarily just cash over revenue over expense. There's a little calculation that goes involved. And what we found is that the SMAC did get overpaid a little bit because they had invoices still outstanding that they had to pay. So in order to correct the situation, the retained earnings was a negative or a deficit of $38,644. We have come to terms with the SMAC executives to discuss how we would address that deficit. So right now, the deficit will be at 0 this year. No funding will be paid out to SMAC that we don't already have cash on hand.
Is there any effort to recover that money from SMAC for the town, if the town was subsidizing that account?
Yes, and that's by not paying them more than what we have in the account, and that deficit will be made up by not paying them an extra $38,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other technical questions? Question or Procon?
Question, please.
Yes.
Jenna Schneider, Precinct 6. I'm looking at the budget on page 37.
Janice, can you tip your microphone down just a bit?
I'm afraid to touch the thing.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking at the budget on page 37, and it appears to me to be a copy of the budget for the preceding department. So what am I missing? I don't understand why there's MWRA infrastructure. It's about 6 lines down for cable public access.
I would like to claim a typographical error on that because MWRA does not belong to SMAC. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, just...
My apologies to the body.
Then I guess my question is, what should be in there?
There is nothing in MWRA.
Well, that piece I get. If it's not MWRA, is it, for instance, short-term interest? What's supposed to be those...
Are you looking at page 37, which is the cable access, which shows User fees at 491.4.
Yeah.
And the expenses at 491.4.
Yes.
So I don't think I'm clear on the question.
Okay, several lines down, under other funding sources.
Yes, the MWRA Infrastructure Fund, that's typographical error and
Okay.
does not belong in this
So
report.
that line should be blank.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Question?
Yes, I do have a question. All I heard is we have
Please identify yourself.
Oh, Peter Ventresco, Precinct 8. This $36,000 deficit, I would like to know how that happened. Is it related to legal fees?
No, the deficit was calculated based on income and expense. I'm sorry, can you hear me, sir?
Go ahead, say it again, please.
Elizabeth Selesky, Finance Director. The deficit is based on income and expense for the SMAC because it's a total pass-through account. And what happened in fiscal 24, they were paid $38,644 more than we had cash on hand. Controls have been put into place so that will not happen again.
Well, all I know is they had an awful high legal expense. I thought maybe this had something to do with it.
Any additional technical questions on Article 10? Seeing none, let's move on to pro-con debate. All right. Seeing none, is there any need for a summary? Nope. All right, let's move on to the vote. Article 10, funding for the Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund, 20 seconds to vote. Motion passes 119, 10 to 0. Sorry about that. 119, 10 to. Still passes, yes. All right. Back to you.
Thank you, Carmel. Let's just take a moment, recess here for a minute. Don't anybody move, please? What was the vote on number 10? Thank you. Okay, I believe we can probably stop moving ahead here. Article 11, reauthorization of revolving funds. That was on the original consent agenda, but was asked to be held. And so I'll have a motion, please, from Mr. Vaughn Enochian, please.
That the town vote pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, as most recently amended to establish fiscal year limitations on expenditures from the revolving funds established by the general bylaws, section 42, revolving funds with such limitations to remain applicable from fiscal year to fiscal year until such time as they are later amended, as set forth in the warrant, and to carry forward any monies remaining in such funds from year to year unless otherwise transferred by town meeting, and to amend section 42-1 entitled Fund Programs or Purposes and Revenue as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Johnny and Zavino. And could I have the Finance Committee report, please?
Finance Committee voted 12-0 to recommend the motion for Article 11 as written in the warrant.
Okay, I know this was originally on the consent agenda. Would anybody like to do a little presentation, or should we just go right to technical questions? Questions? All right, thank you very much. We're just busy. Do you want to say something?
Finance Director Elizabeth Selesky, this is just standard motions to reauthorize the revolving funds. It's nothing unusual, and this has been standard for a number of years.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
Welcome.
All right, I believe Pat Colburn, you held this, so Pat will be up first.
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. I did hold it because I just wasn't sure what was going on because we didn't have a before and after. And I understand that you said that it's the same thing we've always done, but it looks like we're trying to change maybe a heading as well as add a new contracts and services to secure condemned buildings and properties. So I just wanted to be clear on what exactly I was voting on.
Okay. Can we have a little explanation, please? Whoever can do that.
Mark Tisdale, Assistant Town Manager. That's a great point. As we discussed the other day, Pat, this article is a standard bookkeeping type article, but under the Board of Health section, which is one of the funds that you're approving through this article, the bold at the bottom is additional language that we can utilize for the use of those funds. It says contracts for services to secure condemned buildings and properties. This past year, we had one house we had to board up and do things like that, and we actually had to make a deal with Paul from facilities to make that happen because we didn't have money in a particular budget that we could take out for plywood and things of that nature. And then we're adding consultants not otherwise covered under general laws. So that's pretty vague, but it allows us, the Board of Health, to utilize whatever consultants they need to help review septic plans or whatever services they need.
Thank you. Are you also changing the heading of programs and purposes? That's where I was getting tripped up because it said fund programs or purposes and revenue. So are you changing a column?
No.
Okay.
No, that's just the name of the column.
But it's not what's in the book. So is that okay?
The only thing that's changing is the use of services for the funds for the Board of Health, that bold area at the bottom of the chart.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Mark. Next up is Eric Coleman. Please identify yourselves.
Eric Coleman, Precinct 5. I see in the Board of Health towards the middle of the page in 39, there's, it says to pay the salary and benefits for a full-time assistant sanitarian. Isn't that a budget item as opposed to something that would go into the revolving funds?
Whoever can answer that, please.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Coleman, that's language that's been in this since my tenure has been here. Essentially what that means is the assistant sanitarian, half his salary is paid for by the revolving account. Half his benefits are paid for from the revolving account. So that's why that language is in there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Anybody else with technical questions? Seeing none? Okay, we move on to pro and con debate. Comments? Anybody? Seeing none? I believe we're ready to vote. Simple majority. We have it up on the screen. Please vote now. You have 20 seconds. Okay. That article passes, 127 yes, 11 no, 0 abstentions. I declare that a vote. Okay, we're going to move right on. Okay, that was Article 11. We already did Article 12 and 13. We completed those two articles on May 8th. So we did 12 and 13. Now we're on page 43, Article 14, unpaid bills. I'll wait for everybody, give everybody a moment to turn to page 43 in your books. Okay, Mr. Enokian, can I have the motion, please?
That the town vote to appropriate oh, geez, that's way too much money. That the town vote to appropriate $8,242.67 to pay unpaid bills, as shown in the chart below, from prior fiscal years, and to meet this appropriation, $1,026.19 be appropriated from the FY 2024 water budget, $2,935.96 to be appropriated from the FY 2024 sewer budget, $2,233 appropriated from the FY 2024 snow and ice budget, and $322.52 appropriated from the FY 2024 CO budget, and $1,725 appropriated from the FY 24 school department budget.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by John and Zamino. All right, could I have the Finance Committee report, please?
Finance Committee voted 12-0 to recommend the motion for Article 14 as written in the warrant.
All right, thank you very much. Biz, did you want to do a little presentation on this, or it's up to you?
Mr. Moderator, I'll entertain any questions that come from the body.
Sure, thank you very much. Okay, time for technical questions. Anybody with any technical questions? Rising right now is Mr. Delansky. Please identify yourself, please.
George Zelinsky, Precinct 2. And looking at this chart, it just bothers me that we have bills standing out from April of 2016. You got bills from 22, 23. I don't understand the delay in getting these bills taken care of properly. Is it a mishandling in the town hall? Is it a mishandling in the accounting department? Is it mishandling somewhere?
Mr. Moderator, to the body.
Yes, go right ahead.
It's not mishandling. It's a standard business practice. What happens is sometimes we'll get invoices in late from vendors. We have to close our books by a certain time. And if we do not have those invoices in and approved through a warrant, we have to come to the body for unpaid bills. The one that I'm sure is probably raising a couple of eyebrows is the one for Cedar Hill for Columbia Gas, now Eversource, for the gas bill. What happens is we pay current bill, is what we're supposed to be paying. And as we're looking at these bills, it was noticed that there was an outstanding balance that had not been paid. So research indicated went back to April of 2016. So we have to satisfy the debt of $322.52. And this is unusual, but we're working together with Cedar Hill and other departments to cut down the amount of unpaid bills.
All right, because when you look at these things, you're seeing in November 29th, 2022, you wonder why I'm sitting here in 2024 looking at a bill that's a couple of years old. And that's what brings to my attention that we're a little bit lax and something's wrong somewhere.
Well, what is unpaid bills are running the fiscal year. So everything in here runs the fiscal year 23, which we just closed. So these unpaid bills from the prior fiscal year. And like I said, the only anomaly is the 2016 bill for Cedar Hill. And sometimes there is a delay when we have payments. We deal with, between school and town, we process about 1,200 invoices a week. So there are times when, a department is late getting something in and we just have to postpone and we can't pay it until we have town meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Chet Collins, please identify yourself.
Chet Collins, Precinct 1. Previous speaker was talking about this chart. My question is, snow and ice for 23 meals. Do the town... may I speak, please?
All right. Just
I like being
address your
interrupted,
comments
okay?
to the moderator, if you don't mind. And also, people don't, everybody try to kind of refrain from
my
speaking
question
up.
is,
Go ahead, Mr. Collins.
do the employees that plow the streets and put ice down, and sand, do they get vouchers or do they get extra money in their pay? Because this is like,
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
it's $2,233 for meals. So my question is, are they compensated in their pay, or they get vouchers, or they have to go to certain restaurants, or pizza places, or what?
Mr. Moderator to the body.
Yes,
When you
go
have
right
a
ahead.
snow and ice event, it can be different depending on each situation. Some communities will have everybody come back to the office and grab a sub, but when you're out in this type of community, which is rather large, then the employees are allowed to pick something up when they're on the road. The delay for snow and ice meals coming in now is a little bit of a delay, and it does happen with snow and ice meals. If Mr. Jaffoon would like to speak to the delay on that, it's normal process.
I mean, I don't understand what's normal. If you pay for your meal, you should be able to turn that voucher or receipt into DPW and get reimbursed, not wait a whole year. I mean, that's my question. If I'm online, then I'm not online, but
Through you, Mr. Moderator.
Sure, go right ahead. please.
Paul Jaffoon, Public Works. Chad, I can answer your question.
thank you.
Within their contract, they're allocated a dollar amount per meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, a midnight snack. Actually, they're different dollar amounts per any event that lasts longer than 5 hours. So at 5 hours, like for example, in May, right now, we're doing the leaves at 1:38. Those guys will work 8-9 hours and they won't stop. So because they'll have worked that many hours consecutively, at 5 hours you owe them either a lunch break, which they can't have because they're in and out, or a lunch meal, which is, I believe, like $8 or so. Is that the question? Quite frankly, it's late because we forgot about it last year, and we just realized it, and we made a mistake, so here we are. But we've already paid all those snow meals for FY24, so.
Okay, thank you.
You're all set, Mr. Collins?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, still the time for technical questions. Anybody else? Seeing none? Everybody good? Okay, let's move right into pro and con debate or comments. Anybody? Seeing none? Okay, I just want to explain. This motion requires a 4/5 vote. That's just a technicality of paying unpaid bills. 4/5 or 80% has to pass this motion, okay? Everybody understand that? 4/5 is needed. Are we ready to put it up on the screen? Please vote now. You have 20 seconds. And we may ask the school department for help with the math, okay, if we need it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Bayetta. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support and the help and the assistance. Okay, it passes by clear 4/5. 135 yes, 5 no, 0 abstentions. We declare that a vote. All right, thank you. Now we come to the Article 15, the General Fund Operating Budget. All right, once we get the motion and we hear the Finance Committee reports, I'll take a few minutes to go over a couple of housekeeping rules on this. All right, Article 15, that is on page 44 in your warrant. Mr. Anokian, can I have the motion, please?
That the town vote to appropriate $131,361,246 for the maintenance and support of the several departments of the town for fiscal 2025, and that such sum be expended only for the purposes as described, and further, that to meet this appropriation, $675,000 be transferred and appropriated free cash. $618,725 be transferred and appropriated from overlay surplus. $130,067,521 to be raised in the tax levy.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been moved and seconded by John Anzavino. Can I have the Finance Committee report, please? Well, might as well put it on the record.
The final vote, Finance Committee voted 9-3 to accept and recommend to town meeting the remaining department budgets, and including the 4 departments above. Do you want me to read all the departments above, Mr. Moderator? The individual breakdown of
I'll
the
leave it
votes?
up to the body.
Okay.
Everybody wants to hear it?
No, thank you very much.
It's in the book on page.
Including the 4 departments above, the maintenance and support of the several departments of the town for fiscal 2025, not to exceed a total of $131,361,246. Yes, there's a typo in the motion in the book.
So far.
Okay, everybody clear on that? There's the typo. What's the typo again?
The middle 3 numbers.
Instead of, it says 261, it should be 361. But that's why I read 361.
Okay.
It's only 100,000.
131,361?
Yes, it matches the number above in the motion.
Okay, very good. Everybody clear on that? That sounds good. All right.
Well, thank you.
Before I ask for the presentation, I just want, the way we do our budgets here, it's just same as we do at every annual town meeting. If you want to, once we get into the details of the budget, the town accountant will read the department number, the title of the budget, and the bottom line amount. If you have a motion out there that's on the virtual table, or you want to make a motion today, or you want to debate it, have questions on it, you have to shout out, hold. We'll ask the name of the town meeting rep that held. We're going to write it down, and we'll come back to you as soon as we get through the entire budget, all the numbers and everything. All right, everybody clear on that? If you want to talk, discuss, question anything, any part of the budget, or if you have a motion on anything in these budgets, you have to say hold or identify who you are, then we'll come back to you once we get through all the numbers and everything and all the departments. Pat Coburn, do you have
Point of order, please?
Yes, go ahead.
If someone could just verify for me that this motion is $131,361,246, which I understand is accurate. But if you look in the book at the number 96,
The
in
big
the budget,
number 96.
page number 96 on the bottom, where it summarizes all of the totals. If
Okay.
you look maybe 7 or 8 lines from the bottom, it says grand total general fund budget of $130,105,820. So I'd like to know, I'm hopefully looking in the wrong spot. If I'm not, my concern is if that's really a summary of all these pages and the 130 is wrong, then are all these pages wrong? So could you just look where it says the 130, 105,820?
Okay, we'll hear from the town accountant if you can.
Mr. Moderator, to the body, if you look at the informational summary page, what we also have to raise in budgetary process is the anticipated snow and ice deficit at the time was $433,788. That's this page right here that you would have picked up at the front table, and it's a supplement that went on the virtual table over the weekend. Also with that, we have to raise what's called the overlay, which is $821,638 for the total variance of $1,255,426, making our total expenditure budget $131,361,246. And this gives a clearer picture of what we'll be raising on the recap. And I do have to include these in the budgetary process so everybody's aware of the true potential of what we're looking at.
Thank you. I think I was just confused because we used to have a different chat up there with all of that on it, but I appreciate the explanation.
Okay, everybody clear on that? Mr. Laurie, identify yourself, please.
David Lurie, Precinct 6, through you, Mr. Moderator. In my feeble memory, I recall having a column for the Finance Committee budget that's actually the one that we vote on. But in this book, the far right column that seems to be the one that we're voting on is the select board budget. So I just want to understand if the numbers that were quoted in the motion, is that reflective of the finance committee's budget or the select board's budget, or are they both one and the same?
Mr. Moderator to the body,
Yes.
unless the Finance Committee Chair would like to answer this, I can answer it.
If you'd like to.
Go ahead, Biz.
Okay, quite simply, the exact amounts from the Select Board and the Finance Committee are exactly the same. And during this process, when it went to print, the Finance Committee column was not in there, but is exactly the same as what the Finance Committee voted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else for any? Oh. Mr. Holmes, please identify yourself, please.
Brian Holmes, Precinct 3. I'm going to ask you, within your discretion, to eliminate the period of pro-con debate on the budgets. I did this 2 years ago in the form of a motion. It caused an uproar of debate just on the motion. We don't need to do that. The reason behind my request, Mr. Moderator, is that you have a committee to your left in the Finance Committee. You have a board to your right in the Select Board that vets these budgets. We don't need to be debating them, and that's my request to you, sir.
I'm going to deny that request. We're here. I have to allow the town meeting reps to ask their questions. I appreciate your concern and your request, but we're here for this reason, to question the budget. Appreciate your offer. All right, at this point in time, Janice, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Janice Schneider, Precinct 6. To our town finance manager, if I may, Mr.
Sure.
Moderator. How much do we have in free cash?
The town of Stoughton was certified free cash, which is the funding from July 1st, 2023, as approved by the Department of Revenue, was $4,900,916.
Everybody get that? Could you repeat that one more time,
Yes,
please?
I can. Certified free cash as of July 1st, 2023, which is net of operations from fiscal year 23, is $4,900,916.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else before we move on? Seeing none? Okay, I'm going to ask if you want to do a presentation, either Biz or Mr. Coulter, on your budget. And let me just explain. We do a little presentation from the town side, then we'll go in the name the town department numbers. And then when the school budget, before we take on the school budget numbers, I'll ask the the superintendent to come up and do his presentation. Are we clear on that process?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, this year we went to great lengths to add a voluminous amount of supporting documentation, which I know everybody has read. So as opposed to taking up the members' time on a presentation, we would prefer by department just to answer whatever questions for the departments which are held.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you both. Okay. All right, so the town accountant's going to read the numbers, the departments, the title, and the dollar amounts. And if you want to come back to ask a question or have any concerns, have a motion on the virtual table, make a motion today. Anything you want to do on these departments, please speak out and say hold, and we'll ask who's holding. There might be 3 or 4 people that want to hold. That's fine. We'll write your names down. We'll come back. Okay, we'll take it a little bit slow, but we're going to get through this process this evening. Okay, Biz, go ahead.
Mr. Moderator to the body, we're going to start with the shared expenses. Department 710, debt service, excluded 5492775.
Okay, hold on a minute. I'll do my own hold for a minute. Hold on. Page 95. Okay. I know. The problem is the numbers are a little small. Biz, can you just say where you're reading it from one more time? Could you use your microphone, John?
Up here at the top.
Why aren't we going through in order of the budget as far as the pages are out of whack? If you're looking at the summary sheet, that's one thing. But in the budget, they're not in the same order as that cover sheet. I don't know why we don't just start where the budgets are and go through those. In other words, when you look at the summary sheet, the original, the debt service excluded is actually on page 50 of the budget, which is a different number than what you'll get in the book. But then when you look, the first item for budget, when you look at the actual budget, not the summary sheet, is town council. So
I believe she's reading from page 95, total shared expenses. That's a summary.
I know. My question is, why don't we just go through it with the budget? Because you're going to look at the budget, and they're in a different order than just going through the summary sheet.
Okay, so you're saying start at page 97?
Okay?
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the very first budget, right, is town council,
Okay, let me see if we...
as opposed to the summary sheets. I just think it would be easier to follow if you're doing it by the budget.
Okay, we can do it that way too. I mean, whatever makes it easy for the town meeting reps.
That's perfectly fine. My first time reading these off at town meeting. My apologies to the...
That's
to
okay.
the process.
My fault, because I suggested you start there. I just wanted to start at the beginning, because other people might have
Technical
problems.
question?
You have a point of order?
I do.
Okay, state your name, please.
John Rock, Precinct 3. This is a suggestion for next year. If you could make the title of the department a little bigger, it would be very helpful to me, and I don't know about anybody else. On the budgets, it's, you know, as you're flipping through just the department title, if it, you know, make it a larger print and bold it or something.
Yeah.
It would make it easier. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, there's no need for a motion, I understand. All right. Is there a reason why the print's so small? Do we have to pay a little extra money for larger print? I know. Okay. All right, let's keep moving.
The original budget gets printed on like an 11 by 17, so to, you know, to squish it down.
We'll have to take a look at that. I can't promise the meeting here, but
We would
it is
deny
small.
putting the 11 by 17s out a couple of town managers ago.
All right, let's move on. Okay, Biz, I'm sorry.
Okay, my apologies to the body. We're going to start at page 97, which is town council.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Is someone, you have to rise yourself to the, please rise to the microphone. Well, I can't hear you.
Aren't we lucky?
Yeah, if anybody wants to have a question or an inquiry, please, you're going to have to use a microphone so people at home can hear you, and also down here we can hear you. And the rest of the body needs to hear you too.
Hi, Peter Ventresco, Precinct 8. I'd appreciate the young lady down there would put the mic closer to her so we can hear back here. Thank you.
Okay, we'll try to accommodate you. Thank you very much.
Okay, can we hear me up back now? Everybody's good? Okay, we're going to start page 97, and that would be town council. The recommended budget is $300,000.
Department, what department was that?
I'm sorry, Department 111.
111.
Mhm.
So, and the bottom number is
300,000.
300,000. All right, I hear nothing, so we're going to move on.
Okay. The next department is the town moderator, Department 1114, and the budget as sent through is $3,300. Select board,
Wait a minute, I'm going to put a hold on the town moderator.
we're going to hold, okay?
Please.
Johnny Zamino. All right. Okay, just so you know, just for, again, if you don't speak up and put a hold on these, once we're done, those departments are closed. We're not going to go back and open them up. I just want everybody to be clear on that. Okay? I'm sorry, Biz, go ahead.
Okay, yes, sir, thank you. Next is the Select Board, Department 122. The value is $14,860.
Okay, just hold on a sec. We good? All right, let's move on, please.
Town Manager, Department 123. Okay, I will finish with the
Okay, hang on.
recommended value.
Okay, let Biz just give the numbers, and then we'll ask for the holds.
Okay, so the recommended value is 667,168, and that's on page 100. That one's been put on hold.
Okay, who's putting it on hold? One, two people? Okay, everybody, I'll just give us a minute here to write those names down. Okay, Peter Ventresco, Juan Fox. Was it Eric Coleman? Did you hold? Anybody else over here? Lisa Lyons. Just bear with me here. All right, Biz, go ahead, please.
Next is Finance Committee, Department 131. Recommended budget is 427,250. Next is the Town Accountant.
Okay, hang on a minute. Anybody? None? Okay. Go ahead.
Town Accountant, Department 135. Recommended budget is 377,842.
Just a second. We good? Okay, please move on.
Next is Auditing, Department 136. That has been transferred to the Town Manager's Office. Next is Centralized Purchasing, Department 138. Recommendation is $118,400.
Okay, hold on a minute. Anybody? Hearing none, please move on.
Board of Assessors, Department 141. Recommended budget 369,993.
169,993?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We
All right.
have
Please move on.
Treasurer Collector Department 145. Recommended budget 609,564.
And what department was that?
Treasurer Collector Department 145.
Okay, please move on.
Department 152, Human Resources. Budget is 260,239.
Okay, please move on.
Procurement, Department 153. Recommended budget 175,660.
Please move on.
Informational Services, Department 155. Recommended budget 593,135.
Please move on.
Town Clerk, Department 161. Recommended budget 324,932.
Peter Murphy, hold. Anybody else hold? Okay, please move on.
Okay. Planning Board, Department 175. Recommended budget 178,017.
I'm sorry, what department was that, please?
That is Department 175, Planning Board, page 111.
Okay, please move on.
Economic Development, Department 176, 123,607.
Just 1 second, please.
Mhm.
What department was that? 176?
That was 176, Economic Development, page 112.
Thank you. Please move on.
Next is Police Department, Department number 210. Recommended budget for this account is 8825,625.
Okay, who's putting the holds on? Just 1 second, please. Anybody else? I don't hear anybody. Sandra, Susan. All right, please move on.
Crossing Guards, Department 213. Recommendation 127,384.
Okay, please move on. Oh, wait a minute, did I hear a hold? Crossing guards, Pat Colburn. Take the hold off. You have to submit in triplicate, you know. Just teasing. All right, no hold on crossing guards, right?
Okay.
Okay, please move on.
Civilian dispatchers, Department 217. Recommended budget is 71769.
Okay, a hold, Pat Colburn. Hold on one second. Anybody else? Did I hear another one out there? Sandra Susan.
It's right there in this budget.
Okay, please move on.
Next, page 117, Fire Department, Department number 220. Recommended budget is $8,054,064.
We got a couple holds. Could you we'll just have her repeat the number, please, Biz.
Yes, sir. 8054064.
Is there any holds? Eric Coleman? And Sandra. Okay, hold on a second, Biz.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're at the fire department. Okay, go ahead, Biz.
Yeah, that one's on hold. Sorry. Building and Zoning Department, number 241. Recommended budget is 419895.
Hearing none, please move on.
Animal Control, Department 292. Recommended budget is 91836.
Hearing none, let's move on.
Regional Schools, Department 301. We have Southeastern Regional at $1,596,547. Norfolk Agricultural at $36,000 for a total for the two schools at $1,632,547.
Is there a hold? Okay. Hold.
On regional?
Okay, we got a hold. 1 second, Biz.
Mm-hmm.
Do we just have one hold? Anybody else? Did I hear anybody else? No? Okay, go ahead, Biz.
Engineering, Department 411. Recommended budget, 798079.
Hearing none, let's move on.
DPW General and Highway Administration, Department 421. And the total from page 125 is $1,002,543. 1,002,543.
Hearing none, please move on.
Let's see, Highway Construction and Maintenance, Department 422. Recommendation 394,700, 394,700.
Okay, can we just take a pause for a second? Everybody caught up with those pages? Everybody good? We're on page, 126 is it?
Page 126 is what we just spoke to.
Okay, we're going to move on. Please move on, Biz.
Page number 127, Facilities Department. That is number 159. Recommended budget, 1055421, $1,055,421.
Hearing none, please move on.
Page 128, Snow Removal, Department 423. Recommended budget, $400,000.
Hearing none, please move on.
Page 129, Street Lighting, Department 424. Recommendation, $254,000, 254000. That was
Hearing-
Department number 424 on page 129.
Okay, hearing none, please move on.
Fleet Maintenance, Department 426. Recommended budget, 945,817.
Hearing none, please move on.
Waste Disposal Sanitation, Department 433. Recommended budget is 2168935. The total can be found on page 132. 2,168,935. Department 433 Waste Disposal and Sanitation.
Hold, we have a hold. Just hold on a second, Biz. Just one hold? Sandra, do you have one too? Anybody else? Pat Colbert and Sandra Souza. Okay, please move on.
Human Services, Department 505 is a recommended zero budget.
$505? Okay, please move on.
Board of Health, Department 510. Recommended budget is 196,321.
Hearing none, please move on.
Council on Aging, Department 541. Recommended budget 438,356.
Hearing none, please move on.
Veterans Services Department, Department number 543. Recommended budget 434,710.
Hearing none, please move on.
Substance Abuse and Prevention, Department 544. Recommended budget 98138, and that's on page 137. You will have two funds on Department 137. Substance Prevention is the top at 98138.
1 second, Biz. What was that, Peter? Oh, Biz,
Yes,
can you
sir.
repeat the number?
Page 137, Substance Abuse and Prevention, Department 544. Recommendation is 98138. You're welcome.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, second on that page is Commission on Disabilities, Department 549. That has a recommended budget of $7,000. That's the lower section of page 137.
Okay, hearing none, let's move on.
Okay, page 138 and 139, this is the library, Department 610. The library has a total of $1,218,199. $1,218,199.
Hearing none, let's move on.
Page 140, Historical Commission, Department 615. Recommended budget is $800.
Hearing none, let's move on.
Recreation and Youth Services, Department 630, on page 141. The total recommendation is 478,249.
Hearing none, let's move on.
Parks Department, Department number 650. Recommendation on page 142. Recommendation is 500,117, $500,117.
Hearing none, let's move on.
Community Events, Department 695. The recommended budget, is 100,590, page 143.
What department number?
That is Department number 695.
Okay, hearing none, let's move on.
Department 710, Retirement of Debt. Debt expenses, principal, etc. The total recommendation is $9,382,172.
Okay, who has the hold? Bob Cohen and Dave Lurie. Who else? Bob Cohen, Dave Lurie. Okay, just 1 second, Biz. Okay, please move on.
Okay. Next is health insurance, Department 909, and that is $13,327,797, page 145. Total recommendation 13,327,797.
Hearing none, let's move on.
Townwide insurance, Department 910. Recommendation, and it's page 146. Recommendation is 2,163,000, $2,163,000.
Hearing none, let's move on.
Page 147, retirement contribution, Department 911. Recommendation 8,55360.
Bob Cohen for hold. Anybody else? Hearing none, let's move on.
Unemployment compensation, Department 913. This is located on page 148. Recommendation is $50,000.
Hearing none, let's move on.
Other financing uses, Department 940 has a zero recommended budget, and that is page 149.
Okay, hearing none, let's move on.
Let's see, the enterprise funds are covered on page 150 and 151. Let me go back, see if I can find the school here.
Yeah, water enterprise fund is closed.
Enterprise funds are complete, so we'll be skipping over those.
Yep.
I am looking for the school department budget.
It's on a separate page there.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, it should start at like page 163, the school department.
163. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Now, before we go in the school department budget, I'm going to ask Superintendent
I don't have the right.
Joseph Payetta to do a
No,
presentation.
he's doing the presentation.
Is there an issue? Okay.
Good evening. Joe Byetta, Superintendent of Schools. Let me begin with a sincere thank you for your vote the other evening for the elementary building to go forward to the taxpayers to make a consideration on June 11th. Thank you. This is kind of a full circle for me. A kid from Stoughton who now gets to have the opportunity to be here tonight as a prior member of this body for many years, school committee member, and today as your superintendent. And I'd like to thank those that in the prior school committee and the current school committee that supported me to come here. It's truly a full circle. So tonight, what we want to talk about, and we'll get it within the 10 minutes, is really to provide you an opportunity for what we want to do, how we want to do it, and how we're going to get there. And it really starts with every single year a process. And so for me, this has been a learning curve. Because 15 years of doing this, it's 15 different ways, literally, of doing that. So I want to ensure the body of transparency, communication, and really being straightforward by inviting all of you to all of our meetings in the fall as we begin the budgetary process earlier than typical. If you could move to the next slide, please. So in your packet, I believe that I provided some extra information than you're used to seeing, and that will continue to grow in the future as well as part of our budget. And what we're looking at in terms of what I'll call pressure points in a few minutes when I come full circle. All of this is printed within your budget. As you can see, a significant increases are really around instruction. And we are, as we know, and again, I'll talk about this as pressure points, really looking at the issue of what's already been previously discussed, which is trying to really make a case during a time of inflation and difficult time to find employees. And that has been difficult, and I'll speak a little bit more to that. Next slide, please. Next. Thank you. And so you have further cuts of decreases and increases by accounts. And if you go one more slide, again, this is all in your book. To the next slide, please. Yeah, we're going backwards. Sorry. All right. One more back. Go back one. There you go. So now you have the total FTE increases in this budget, which are in special education with a new special education program. And then you see again the increases of Unit A and Unit B. I can speak about that, I'm sure, as part of the hold. And we'll talk about it in a few minutes as well. You see each of the major line items and how we get to the number that we have. Next slide. So the pressure points for us as you take a look at it, as you break down the main drivers of this budget are there right before you. And as you can see, the contractual increases are most significant. We signed a retroactive with Unit A. Unit B came in for July 1st. And then the paraprofessionals are for next year and have a significant contractual increase as well. All of the other line items, as you can see, have some significant decreases. For example, in terms of the second major line up there after the contractual increases is out of district and tuitions for special education placements. And I'll be able to talk a little bit more about that in another second as well. Of the 7.1% increase that you have before you, we want to also take a look and just inform you that we are keeping all teachers in the classroom in terms of this budget proposal, and we are seeking the 4 positions as part of the budget proposal. However, let me also just say as part of this that we have some ebb and flow that will take place over the next couple of months, which happens in the education field every year. Resignations, further retirements, leaves of absence, those will take place throughout the summer months. In the last 2 fiscal years, we've seen a ebb and flow of retirements and resignations, leaves of absence of 89 folks within the public schools. That's a pretty significant number over the last few years. Next slide, please. One of the most important parts about a school budget is determining what's important to us. And it's clearly very important to us as a district that maintaining children without bus fees, athletic fees, and activity fees is important to us as a community, especially a community that continuously is now seeing more and more students that need our support, not only academically, but also through some of these funding situations. The second part I think is really important is how much we've changed. And by that, what I mean is I'm an example of it. I was an EL kid. I learned English as a second language. We probably had about 100 of us back in the day, way too far ago. We're at over 700 students in the EL population and growing daily, including our migrant student situation that I'm sure the body would like some further information on. And thank you to Representative Phillips, who today, after a question that I asked on that question of the migrant students, there is a budget for supporting education at $104 a day through December 21st only at this time. And that's because both the House and the Senate want to see where all of this is going in terms of the state expenditure for the shelters. So thanks to him for getting us some specificity, because going into this weekend, we didn't have that yet. That eases us because potentially next year we will have very close to somewhere between 130 and 140 sheltered students. That's a pretty significant rise from the 90 ebb and flow that we have right now. And again, we are starting to see some families that are moving out into other areas of the state or actually getting housing as well. The specialized programs for in-district is a no-brainer financially and educationally. And I say that because we have a responsibility to educate all children, and the opportunity to do that internally costs money, but it costs more money to transport and send to a third party, either collaborative or private school for tuition purposes, which run anywhere from a minimum of 180 days to summertime to residential 365. The other thing that I think is important for the body to recognize is that all the federal funding, assistance funding supports are going away. We currently have in ESSA funding only the remaining amount for the HVAC system at the given school. And that process is underway. Those are the funds that will be utilized for that. There are no personnel in this budget for FY25 from federal ESSER funding. Continued to that is the salary increases that we wanted to provide all of our employees. Our paraprofessionals were working at $15 an hour, up from $12 an hour just a few years before that. And so both the prior committee and this school committee, myself and all involved, decided to provide that contract with a minimum salary of $20 an hour starting in Stoughton Public Schools. As you know, you can work in a bunch of other places at a cost, hourly cost that's significantly even higher than that. But these are our staff that are working with our neediest, some of our neediest students who are scratched physically, deal with all kinds of bruises and so on and so forth. So we wanted to make sure that we were getting out front of making sure we can hire the people and, by the way, keep the people, because our turnover was becoming pretty significant in the number of folks that were leaving. To that end, also the contractual obligations with the Stoughton Teachers Association, that's Unit A and Unit B. Those are retroactive, $275 this year, $375 next year, and $385 the following year. So the body has a FY25 budget that's at $3.75. With the paraprofessionals, the second year of the contract in FY26 is at $3.5, and then the final year is at $3.75. Those are the contracts. All the other contracts we have settled at somewhere around $1.5, and administrators are settled. Certain administrators are at $1.5, and other administrators still to be decided as part of this process because their positions are negotiated salary either only as an individual. Everybody else is under the union as well. I'd like to just add a couple of more things that I wrote down. Thank you to the working team. And that is we really tried to stick to our priorities that have been established for a number of years now. And that's a triennial plan that really supports our EL special education students throughout our district and the social emotional issues that we are seeing with our students. The second priority was to make sure that we were meeting all of the requirements that we have to meet under federal and state law for the special populations. It's not a choice, it's a must. Again, it's not a choice, it's a must. It's a team of the parent and or their guardian and or attorney and the school department coming together and saying this is in the best interest of the student and agreeing to that. Meeting the contractual salary requirements was an important priority for us. As you know, there were a number of labor issues throughout Massachusetts in the field of education in the last 18 months. And also to continue to try to work to maintaining our class size perspectives that we try to do on a regular basis. Our pressure points, there are 4. Absolutely, inflation has hurt schools. There's no doubt about that in terms of not only the materials and supplies, but also with staff. The sunsetting of federal legislation, specifically ESSER 3, has definitely become a point as well. And then lastly, the last 2, we have seen since September an enrollment increase of 72 more students. That does not include the migrant students and, of course, the pressure point of the contracts. What we will continue to do is, like I said earlier, look at monitoring everything that we can within our staffing on a day-to-day basis. Who's leaving, who's coming, why. That's also important. Make sure that we're mandating or meeting the mandates of special education and ELL, making sure that we are striving to be the best that we can. And to that end, I'd like to finish with a couple of things. Number one, the Chapter 70 funding continues to be ebb and flow because the House and the Senate are still trying to figure that out. And lastly, and more important to me, is success and defining success. You know, one of the things that a superintendent has to do is be mindful of all of its students and all of its populations of students. And as a superintendent of schools, I am here to work on behalf of all students. We're going to have agreements and disagreements, and I understand that. There are pressure points within this budget that we haven't seen in the past. That's okay. We will continue to move forward. That is what we have to do. We have to maintain high graduation rates. We have to make sure that college and career readiness is at the forefront of meeting the needs of all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Bayard. Appreciate it. Thank you for the presentation. I'm going to ask, before we ask for holds, I know there's a couple of motions on the virtual table, so if you want to bring those into play, you're going to have to ask for a hold. But I would just want to have Town Council explain the process of holds within the school budget. Yep. Kate, if you want to explain that.
Sure. So this is a bottom line budget. So while you can move to amend, to add or subtract from the budget, you obviously just do it to the bottom line, and the school department is the sole entity with authority to divvy up that money.
Okay, so in the school budget, are there any holds? Okay, hold on. All right, one more time, please. Okay. I'm just going from the back to the front. Anybody else over here? No? What was that? Oh, Peter, I didn't see you. I'm sorry. Good. Bob Kirby, Dave Lurie, Lisa Lyons. All right, just so I'm clear, I have Bob Cohn, Brian Holmes, Bob Kirby, Peter Ventresco, Dave Lurie, Lisa Lyons. Anybody else? Anybody I miss? John Walsh? John, are you raising your hand? Frank Lyons. Mr. Walsh, did you raise your hand? Okay. I get everybody? All right. I think the best way to do this is go back to the beginning. Okay, just for clarification, if you have a motion, it's up to the town meeting rep to put the motion on the floor. I'm not going to say, hey, you have a motion on the table, bring it forth. It's up to the person who has the hold to make that motion on the floor. All right, going back to the beginning, the first hold was Town Moderator's Department, Department 114. I believe it was John Anzavino.
Let me catch up.
Okay, everybody's asking for a page number. Do we have 98?
Page number 98 in Book 1.
Book 1.
John Anzavino, Precinct 4, Vice Chairman of the Finance Committee. During our hearings, we didn't make any changes to these budgets, and I found this after the fact. We had a request from the town moderator to modify his budget. And the total addition was only $528. Now, there were various lines that were being changed. The bottom line is he was asking for $3828 instead of $3,300. And we just didn't make any change to it. We just voted the budget as it was in here, and I think this was an oversight. And I would just like to ask the body to put forward the extra $528. And at this point, I would say we do have a holdback of in the hundreds of thousands of free cash, and I would just ask that we would take the $528 out of that. Sorry, Biz. But I'll ask the moderator just to explain what his reasonings were for the changes.
Thank you, Mr. Anzavino. Bob Mullen, town moderator. Yeah, I asked for an increase for the 2025 moderator's budget because of the cost of the suburban shopper. I'd like to put ads in there. The prices, even though we have, thank you, Elliot, I'm not speaking into the mic. Even though, we have I believe we have a fixed amount now, $149 for a half page for an ad, but I like to run them for 2 weeks. And it just gets costly to get the ads in there. And also, we do have daycare too, I don't know if everybody saw the email I sent out last night. I apologize for getting it out late, but we had to confirm with the YMCA for their nights here. So if anybody needs daycare, please contact either Camille Drews, both of us, Camille Drews and myself. If you need daycare, it's only on Monday and Wednesday evenings, and that costs some money. And just, cost of everything has gone up. So I also want to make sure the precinct chairs get updated copies of town meeting time. They're $27 each. I like to get a copy out to every town meeting rep, and you're talking quite a substantial amount of money. I won't be able to afford that right now. But hopefully in the future, if they ever do a paperback edition, the prices will come down a little bit. So, I mean, it's up to this body. For an extra $500, I could, if you can't afford it, I understand. We just won't be able to do a couple things, but I'll leave it up to the body. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Mr. Delansky, please
George
identify
Zelensky,
yourself.
Precinct 2. Just a quick question. Which line item did you want to put the extra $500 in, please?
I'll read it. I'll read it. I don't have 200 copies, but the copy he presented at the Finance Committee, if you will, if you're looking at your budget, if you see the first line that had $200,
right,
he changed that to 55.
Say that again?
The line that was $200, and I got to have a bigger line here. Dues and subscriptions, he changed it to 55. The advertising, which was the next line down, the 1,200, he went to 1943. The next line down, he changed from 500 to 230. That's for the supplies, I believe.
Let me interrupt you, John. I mean, for $500, I don't want to waste the body's time.
All right.
If you don't want, it's okay with me. I mean,
That's fine.
I just don't want to
know
waste
where
the
it
time
was.
on $500.
There was only one other line that changed, and that was on the grant allocation expense went to $200. The total became $3828 instead of $3,300. So I'm just asking the body to approve an extra $528 for the moderator's budget. And as I said, my intent at this point would be to take it away from the holdover we did in the free cash, which was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and just to reduce that by 528. You don't see that number anywhere in the budget or any of the articles. That was left on the table.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any debate?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
point of order. It's me.
Yes. Hi,
Frances.
Biz.
Hi. On the point of order, at this point in time, it would not be necessary to take it from free cash because we do have an excess capacity of $4,474.78 that would be available. So that would easily be covered by our current funding sources without having to take more money out of free cash.
Oh, that's even better. Thank you, Biz. I appreciate that.
No problem.
So I would change my motion that we would increase this by the $528, and that would be taken off of, Biz, what did you call that? The 4,900 or?
4,474.78, which would be considered surplus or
Okay.
excess capacity.
So I would say take the $528 off the surplus.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Murphy, you have a question?
Peter Murphy, Precinct 2. You have daycare down here for $1,400. And my question would be, first of all, in the past, I believe there was daycare. And what was the cost of that? How much money has been spent on that per annual town budget, for the annual town meeting sessions?
I don't have that number in front of me. It's probably, I don't know if we have that anywhere. How much money was spent on daycare last annual town meeting? Is that what you want?
You're right, for the annual town meeting.
Yeah, annual town meeting from last year.
Correct.
Okay.
I do not have that specific figure. However, we could get that for a later time. Judging by what we see here, It couldn't have been much money, $1,400. I'd have
I think it was probably $1,200. What's that? 1,038. Yeah, 1,038, whatever it's in the numbers there.
And my question is, do we really need daycare?
Well, it's...
I just asked a question.
Is that a rhetorical question, or is that a question you want to answer?
A question I want an answer. I mean, it's a case of where, for years and years, there was never daycare. Now, all of a sudden, we're having daycare.
Right. Well, times have changed. Some people like to participate in town meeting, and if they don't have another partner or someone to help them out to watch their children, if they're comfortable bringing their child or children to the daycare at town meeting, which is upstairs, second floor, we hire 2 adults from the YMCA. It gives people options to participate in town government.
But it only goes, according to your memo you sent out, it only goes to 9:30 at night.
Yes.
So, to me, if you're going to do daycare, have it go till 10:30.
I'll leave that to the parents. If they want me to extend that, I'm more than happy to extend that. But the situation is, most children, I know if my kids were younger, I'd leave that up to the adults, the parents. But I wouldn't want my child to be on 9:30, 10 o'clock the latest, 9:30. If they need to 10 o'clock, we can make provisions. More than happy to call or contact Carmel and myself. We'll make those provisions. Just trying to be fair and reasonable to this body and to taxpayers. It allows more people to participate. That's all I'm saying. That's all we're saying. I'll leave it up to the wisdom of the town meeting representatives to vote on that. Any other questions? Dave Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dave Lurie, Precinct 6. So first, before I ask a question, I just need clarification on something because we heard a new number I haven't seen before. Do we get the number that we're starting at for excess capacity and then the subtracting out the 500 and change? What is the net number after that?
I'm sorry, yes, just one moment, please. So the excess capacity, I'll be tracking the changes. On the summary was 4,474.78, and with this change, it's $538, so it's bring us down to more like 3,900 in excess.
Okay, 39 what?
3,900 and change.
And change, okay. So I don't understand why the numbers, they don't seem to make sense tracking along with the information we're getting. So that's kind of what I don't know if I'm concerned, I just don't understand. So there's so we used to have, at the bottom you show 57,708.
Okay, excuse me, we're in the town moderator's budget, right?
No, we're on the excess capacity just came up.
You're
as a
looking
source of funding your extra money.
Mr. Lurie, if I may, that's prior fiscal year. Currently, we have a surplus of $4,474.78.
I'm just pointing out on this latest sheet we got, and I don't know what date this report came out. I don't see a date on it, but there's no mention in estimated FY 2025 of $4,000. It's just not there.
If you look at the columns, the second column says per recap 2024, and our excess capacity is calculated at recap. So in 2024, we had excess capacity of 57,708. Currently, right now, if you look to the right-hand side of the report, you will see our general fund expenditures, and then with our estimated surplus deficit, we have a surplus of $4,474.78. Once we make that change, bear with me 1 minute. Once we make that change, 1 second, I believe it will come down to, because we're increasing it, it will come to 393678 in what would be considered excess capacity that we could still spend during this budget process.
Okay, and that 4474 before you make the change, that
Yes,
would
sir.
have been in, I just don't see it in the column at the top for excess capacity. Why doesn't it show up there and only on the bottom right?
Because it doesn't become a declared excess capacity until we do the recap, but this is, would be considered a surplus.
Oh, okay, I just saw the word estimated over it, and that's why I was curious as to why it naturally wouldn't be there.
Absolutely, that's why. So when we do next year's budget, you'll see an excess capacity for FY 25 taxation.
Okay, we good? Thank you, Biz, for
sir.
explaining that. Thank you, Mr. Lurie, for the question. All right, anything else on the town moderator's budget? John, could you restate that motion?
My motion was to increase the moderator budget from $3,300 to $3,828, taking the extra $528 from the sheet that you found on the table tonight, from the surplus or deficit, which was at 4474.78, and it would reduce that number to 3946.78.
Okay, seconded by
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
John Rock, precinct 3, thank you. All right, I'm going to just take by voice vote, if it's simple majority. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous. All right, let's move on. Thank you very much for your attendance and appreciation. Thank you again. Okay. And thank you, Ms. Anzavino. Okay, let's move on. Next hold, I believe, is in the town manager's budget. First one is, okay, what page is the town manager's budget on?
Page 100.
Page 100? 100. First up is Mr. Peter Ventresco. Please rise to the microphone. We want to keep it moving. Well, questions, comments, motions, whatever you want to do in this budget. You have a comment? Why don't we just do it now? Because I have Peter Ventresco, Juan Fox, Eric Coleman, Lisa Lyons. Just want to keep this moving. If you have any motions, comments, questions, now's the time to ask. Please identify yourself.
Hi, Peter Ventresco, Precinct 8. Town manager's budget for the communications coordinator, $65,000 a year. We don't need this position. Why? One, we have a town crier. Two, we have a news post at the town hall. We have Facebook. We have Stoughton News. We have Stoughton Enthusiast. Now, we could use the suburban shopper. It goes to every home, every apartment, every condo in Stoughton, and apartments. So it's basically reaching 18,000 units. All right, now let's say it's $1,000 a month for suburban shopper. That's $12,000 a year. That's a lot less than $65,000 plus benefits, which would be around $90,000 a year. And in time, they'll add a receptionist and yearly raises. We cannot stop taxes from going up every year. We have contracts, services, and obligations, but we can't hold the line on unnecessary jobs. To hold taxes going higher than we need to. So I don't think we need this job because the information's out there practically costing us nothing. So I see no need for this job whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, thank you for your comments. Next up, Juan Fox, please identify yourself.
Juan Fox, Precinct 1. I'm moving to zero out line 54XX and to move that money to the stabilization fund.
Oh, you can't.
Okay, what page are you on, sir?
Page 100. That's the DEI consultants.
What's the amount of money?
The amount of money is, it's very hard to see, 30,000.
Okay, 30,000. Is there that's a motion. Okay, you wanted to move the 30,000?
Zero out the 30,000 and move that into stabilization.
Well, wait, okay, you want to move the 30,000 in stabilization account?
Yes.
I believe you made that's a motion, right? You
That's a
moved
motion.
to move that. And it's been seconded by Elliot Hanson? Well, it doesn't have to be in writing. The exception is the operating budget. It's not complex. I'll rule it's not complex. It's pretty simple. Okay, any further discussion on this, on that motion? Carolyn Campbell?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Carolyn Campbell, Precinct 4. I have a question about the motion to, at this point, is it appropriate to move money into the stabilization account? Can we, is it simply, the motion would be just to reduce the budget by $30,000?
It sounds like it can be accepted. Well, he wants to move it from, just a moment, please. He wants to move it from that line item.
The gentleman's motion is what it is. If you want to make a motion to amend, or if the gentleman wants to accept your amendment as a friendly amendment, that would be the process.
Okay, I guess my question is, as a point of order, is it possible to just move the money from a motion right now into the stabilization account while that's not in the budget?
Oh, meaning, is his motion proper as stated by moving it into stabilization? Yes, that would be fine.
Okay.
His motion would be acceptable, yes.
Yep. Town council says it's acceptable. Pat Colburn, this is, I'm sorry. Dave Lurie, did you have a question on this?
I have a different, if you want to settle out and close
Okay,
out this
different
motion,
question?
different, yeah.
Okay. Pat Colburn on this motion, right?
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. If I could hear from the town manager, is this position already filled? For my first question.
Thank you, Pat. This isn't a full-time position. This is a consulting role for DEI internally for town employees. It's not an employee position.
I apologize, I worded that poorly. Are you using that consultant currently, or is that something you're thinking you might use down the line?
We've got a proposed contract for the consultant that would begin on July 1st.
Okay, and is that for the $30,000?
Yes, ma'am.
So if this were to pass, you'd have to cancel that contract?
We haven't executed it.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to reserve the right, Mr. Moderator, since it's the town manager's office. Would you like me to respond to these particular issues one at a time or in the end?
At the end, sir.
You have it.
Okay. Well, I will let Mr. Coulter, before we vote, he can respond. Anybody else on the motion? Identify yourself, please. Who? Anybody on the motion? Okay, go ahead. Identify yourself, please.
Sylvia Whiting, Precinct 6. I just wondered what would the impact be of moving this to the stabilization fund? What does that mean actually, and how it's actually coming out of human resources or out of town manager's office? Where is the stabilization fund, and is that like a temporary fund? And what happens in future years with that position?
Mr. Moderator, to the body, if I may, Elizabeth Selesky, Finance
Yes, go right
Director.
ahead.
Legally, we can move stuff, as the attorney said. However, I would recommend that we do not move anything into stabilization fund until we've voted all of the budgets, because we do have a lot of issues on hold. So once we're complete with the process, then we can make the decision as to whether or not we're just going to use it to lower the tax rate should some items go down, or to transfer it into stabilization funds. That would be my recommendation.
I guess my other question is, why would we want to take that position and not take any other position and move it there, when that's a very vital aspect of our town administration and an area that really should be addressed?
Go ahead, Mr. Coulter.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, we're talking about DEI now and transferring it. Let's keep in mind that in this town budget, we have 3 times more money going to stabilization, I believe, than at any time in the last decade. 3 times as much. And the town budget has 6 fewer, not more, 6 fewer employees than in the previous year. This is the most austere 3.8% budget I think this body has seen in a long, long, long time. We've reduced the use of free cash, not over 7 years, but by 75% in this 1 year. So, you know, we can have this discussion all day long. I can speak about DEI and why it's in there. I think it is vital. 40% of our population, as the superintendent just pointed out, a large substantial portion of our population is just learning English. There are people coming to the counter in the clerk's office, the assessor's office every day that we call people from around the building in to translate for them. That is the demographic of our community. If we don't have a commitment to DEI, I don't know who is going to.
Okay, thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you. Over here, did you have a question regarding the motion?
Yes, Larry Sauer, Precinct 2. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to...
Well, just ask the question, we'll get someone to answer it.
Okay. Do we have any statistics on the diversity of town employees? And part 2 of that is, would this consultant address concerns around that issue?
Mr. Moderator, well, I don't have the statistics for the whole town, but I can give you a little anecdotal piece. I have an executive assistant, and then we have the selectman secretary who both work in my office. And every day when they're mad at me, they do it in Portuguese. So I know that 100% of my office is Portuguese, and that's true. I'm not trying to just be funny. What I do know is on a macro level, 40% of our population are citizens. I know that internally, of the 5 or 6 people that have either replaced or are new employees at Town Hall in the year and a half I've been there, 3 of them are African American. All of them, mostly all of them, speak Portuguese or some other language where English is not their first language. That is the pool we're drawing from. And it's a great privilege. In the DEI program that we've prepared for this new fiscal year, which begins July 1st, does a survey of the town, online survey, we're not going to spend any money on it, to see what the needs of the town are. And then we're going to start implementing it from the inside out, from the inside of town government to serve our citizens better. There's so many ways we talk about inclusion that people in our town are not even included in town government because we're not aware of or we're not responding to their unique needs. And that is those are our neighbors. They're not the migrant population that's moving in that the school is so desperately trying to serve. Those are Stoughton taxpayers and voters. So I will get you that data, sir. But on a macro level, recent census shows 40% of our population is of a diverse background.
Okay, thank you. I oppose this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Lyons, do you have a question on the motion or a comment?
Yeah, yes,
Okay,
with
identify
regard to the
yourself, please.
DEI position.
Yes.
Yes. So I first want to commend you for having your budget increased to 3.8 as opposed to 7.1%. But with that being said, and with the struggles that all our citizens are facing financially, I believe all the people, leaders in this town can handle. You're speaking about the diversity of our population. We are very diverse already. And as far as equity, I basically think, we earn what we get to with a little help from our friends. And inclusion, we already have an inclusion problem just from appointing on committees. I don't feel like we have to exert the added expense for this position. If we all act in the best interest of humanity, we don't need to hire another position for that. That's what I'd like to say on that. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator. The way I'd respond to that, Lisa, and thank you for that position. I understand what you're saying, but when we talk about inclusion, I'm talking about taxpayers. And when those taxpayers look for the services they pay for in our town, and A, we can't understand the language, B, we can't understand their concerns, C, we haven't been fully integrated, they have not been fully integrated into our community family. This is about education. This is about making sure that the 40% of our citizens that come from a diverse population walk into our town. It's our job to welcome and serve them. They're citizens of our town and of our country. It's not their job to worry about how they're going to communicate that they don't understand their tax bill or that they want a marriage license. That happened 2 weeks ago and they couldn't speak English. 2 legal citizens, documented citizens, and taxpayers in this town. And we couldn't provide a service or even understand what they were asking us to do. That's embarrassing and that's wrong. We had the discussion the other day about VNA. VNA primarily serves our seniors, but all taxpayers are delighted to pay for a deficit in that department because our senior population is so important to us.
Let's try to stay
Thank
on
you, Mr.
DEI.
Moderator.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to the town manager, if I may. These people came to an English-speaking country. We provide... Excuse me, Mr. Moderator, this is unacceptable from the audience.
Just let the moderator decide that, Lisa,
Okay.
please. Ask your question or your comment, and we
Okay.
need to move on.
I, as a town meeting rep, get to express myself without heckling. Thank you. So, we are an English-speaking country. We provide services at the library for literacy and help. We provide that. That's in many other budgets already. For a DEI consultant is not going to be able to help somebody in the government to understand somebody who's not speaking English. From listening to the school committee, we have 40 different languages in this town. It is not, what's not reasonable is to expect our town employees. It's not embarrassing. We're an English-speaking country. In my opinion, it is in no way embarrassing that you don't understand somebody who doesn't speak the language of the country.
Mr. Moderator, just
Thank you.
one sentence.
Sure, Mr. Calder.
The consultant will not be working with our diverse community. This is 2 sentences. The consultant will be working with us, not them, us, so that we can better serve the people that pay our taxes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is on the motion to move the money from 30,000, the DEI position, to stabilization. Is that, you want to talk about that?
I have a
Sure,
comment on
identify
that.
yourself, please.
Lindsay Weber, Precinct 5.
Hi, Nancy.
Good evening. At a time where most organizations, companies, federal agencies are moving to create full-time positions for this, I'm quite shocked that so many people are opposing a part-time position. I can't imagine how this would negatively impact town employees. It can only benefit town employees, therefore benefit every citizen. I think too much focus on DEI has been mentioned about where people are from, what they look like, what language they speak. DEI is so much more than that. I think a part-time position is not enough, quite frankly, and so I oppose this.
Okay, thank you very much. Who is next? Mr. Davis. please
Lester Davis,
identify yourself.
Precinct 3. My own, just a comment, and I currently use it. There's Google Speaks for translation and all, and I think some of the personnel in City Hall should know about it, to use Google Speaks for translation.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your comment. Cynthia Walsh, please identify yourself. Can someone give her the microphone if you got one? Good.
Cynthia Walsh, Precinct 3. I was at a Finance Committee meeting where our superintendent informed us that we have a majority-minority school system. People deserve to see town employees that look like them. Part of the problem of hiring a diverse or being inclusive is the innate or inborn or prejudices that many of us have that we're not even aware of. And the people that do the hiring, this person will train them. Look past the braids, look past the purple hair, look past the extra pounds, look past the cane. It's not just a black and white issue. There is a lot of people that just from their appearance, some people have negative impressions of those of us who are obese, or who dye our hair different colors, or maybe we wear a kepi because of our faith, and maybe we wear other things because of our faith, and our faith isn't Christian. Just because we're used to something, and this is the way it's always been, doesn't mean that's the right way. And the whole process starts with teaching the people that hire and fire how to look for the real qualifications for a job. Don't judge the book by the cover. Open the book and find out what qualifications the individual has for the job that's available. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving right along, Mr. Cohn.
You know something? We
Please
sing it.
identify yourself, please.
Robert Cohn, Precinct 5. We sing our songs, the land of the free. And this is what this town, city is, land of the free. Remember one thing, it's what your heart thinks. And we have people, I've been here 50 years this last month, and I've watched this whole town change. And you know something? The employees, he's trying to get people to understand. We go to the hospitals, there's translators, they go here. Stand in the corridor with some person trying to get some information. It's really a shame. And I commend you for at least trying to do something. I am 100% behind you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Over here, I think Carolyn Campbell, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Carolyn Campbell, Precinct 4. I'm opposed to this motion. I think some of the comments from previous speakers have indicated that we, as a town meeting and as a part of the town government, also need some sort of diversity, inclusion, and training. And anyone watching some of the comments that have been made by people here are not, is just proof that $30,000 is probably not enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Elliot Hansen. Please identify yourself.
Elliot Hansen, is this?
Yes,
there
it's
it
on.
is. Elliot Hansen, Precinct 1. This diversity, equity, inclusion thing, is that to change the workforce in the town? In other words, we're going to have to hire more people for their ethnic background, or are we going to have to remove employees because they don't meet certain requirements? Are we talking, if we're talking about translational services, that sounds like a great thing to do because, yes, we have people in this town that speak, I don't know how many languages, but the question I have is are we going to have to change the workforce to get this DEI straightened out, whatever it is?
Bob, Mr. Moderator, through you.
Yes, go ahead,
If I
Mr.
may
Carlton.
respond to that question. It's a great question. Thank you for that. DEI, it's actually called DEIB. The B stands for belonging. It's about education. No policy changes will happen in this town with respect to DEI without an affirmative vote, a majority vote of your policymakers, the select board. But in terms of serving our community, you make a good point, and so does Mr. Cohn. If we're not, I know I'm not. I'm an Irishman, right? My grandparents came into this country through Ellis Island, but they spoke the language. Spoke kind of funny, but they spoke the language. But there are a lot of people that are very wonderful human beings who don't speak the language. So it's about education. It's about feeling what they feel. It's about empathizing with what they're feeling with. It's not about affirmative action. It's not about writing policies that dictate we do certain things. It's about being aware of what our citizens are feeling. We're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to make Stoughton a better place. And one final point. We've been doing this for years. As the superintendent pointed out, 30 years ago, there were 100 students that we had to work with. And one of them today, imagine if we didn't service that student. He wouldn't be our superintendent. Think about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Mr. Lugito.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think a lot of us don't realize that there are over 8 billion people in this world, and many of them do not look like many of us in this room. And we don't realize, some of us, that people move around an awful lot more than they did 150 years ago. So we're catering to ourselves, all the people in the town. And we need to understand, all the people in the town, we're a community. A community. And we need to treat one another as part of that community and listen and understand, because we have to service everyone in the community. Don't vote for this change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Peter Ventresco. Please identify yourself.
Peter Ventresco, Precinct 8. I don't know how many of us here waited for hours at the emergency room over at Colonel Cushion, but there's tons of people in there speaking foreign languages, and they have an interpreter there. And between the patient and the interpreter, they're talking pretty good English. But yet, when they get called to talk to the intake worker from the hospital, it goes into a foreign language between the patient and the interpreter, and the interpreter is translating from the foreign language to the English, and English back to the foreign language. So I see there's something wrong there. Now, what happened in the old days, people didn't understand English or go to a doctor, or no matter where they went to, they had a friend or a neighbor or a child come and do the translation for them. And that's where it should be. This whole thing about all these translators just get mushroomed bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think this has to stop.
Okay, thank you. Moving over here will be Michael Hardman. And Jonah, did you want to say something too? Did I see Jonah up there? No? Okay. After Michael Hardman, it'll be John Rock. Okay, so Michael Hardman.
Mike Hardman, Precinct 8, member of the Stoughton Disabilities Commission. I'm really pleased that you mentioned disabilities to inclusion. If statistically a quarter of our population in Stoughton is some form of disability, and I know that goes unnoticed too. We are a town of diversity. That's our core background. If we were at the 1920 town meeting, we'd be talking about the Portuguese, we'd be talking about the Italians, we were talking about the Irish. Now we're just talking about different people from different countries. And I urge people not to support the diversity and inclusion and make this part of our time. We need this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rock?
John Rock, Precinct 3. Move the question.
All right, that means cut off debate. If there's some others that would like to discuss this motion. We need a 2/3, so I'm going to ask for a voice vote. If it's any doubt in the mind of the moderator, we'll have to use a clicker. So this is the cutoff debate. I need 2/3 by voice vote. All those in favor of the cutoff debate, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? I declare that motion passes the cutoff debate. Okay, this is on the motion to move $30,000 from the DEI position, a line item, to the stabilization fund. Okay, I'm going to try a voice vote first. It's just simple majority, right? This is simple majority. If there's any doubt in the mind of the moderator, I'll have to ask for a vote by electronic device. Okay, all those in favor of moving the 30,000 from the DEI line to the stabilization fund, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. I think the motion fails. Do I have 7 people that want to stand and challenge my decision? Then we go for. All right, please stand if you want to challenge my vote, my decision. I need 7 people to stand. We'll go to the clicker. Just stand. That's all I'm asking. Just stand up. You don't have to run anywhere. You don't have to move anywhere. Just give me 7 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. More than 7 stood. That's clear. Yeah. Okay, now we have to set it up to vote electronically. It'll be just, again, by simple majority. Just trying to be fair. That's the process. It would be a yes is to go with the motion. You want to pass the motion. A no would be that you're against the motion. Yeah, no. Okay, why don't we have town council try to explain it? That'd be easier.
So a yes motion means that you remove $30,000 from the town manager's budget and eliminate that DEI position. A no vote would mean it would fail, and that would mean you want to maintain that $30,000 in the budget.
Okay, I think I said that, but that's okay. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Yes.
If we take the vote for the 30,000 being in the budget or not in the budget, okay? What happens if there was a motion to reduce the 30,000 to 25,000 like it was the previous year?
That's a whole different ballgame. We haven't heard that motion. We'll
No,
take
I'm just
that.
saying, but could that be the next step, if that be the case?
We haven't heard that motion, so let's do this one thing at a time. Let's do this motion.
Okay.
If it passes, it will be moved. If it fails, nothing changes. So we're just doing this on the fly, so let's give the acting town clerk a few minutes to set it up. Are we ready? Okay, we're ready. Simple majority. 1, 2, or 3. Yes, no, or abstain. Please vote now. Just give me 1 second to record this.
Oh, you gotta go, you take it off?
Motion fails, 41 yes, 97 no, 0 abstentions. All right. Now we go back to the holds for the town manager's account. Next up is Eric Coleman. Please rise and ask your question or make your motion. This is on the town manager's budget. No, I don't hear you yet. Give it a second. If it...
Testing? Oh, yeah, I think. It is? I don't hear it.
Yeah, I hear you, Eric.
Okay.
Just speak up a little louder.
Okay. There
Please
we go.
identify yourself.
Eric Coleman, Precinct 5. I'm also looking at the item that was previously brought up. The other communications coordinator in 2023 was $2,500. Now we're looking at $6,500. The question I have is, what does the other communications coordinator do?
Okay, if we can have an answer to that. What does the communications coordinator do?
The simple answer is look at the school department. They do it more effectively than anywhere I've ever seen. The gentleman earlier mentioned, and that is with their communications coordinator. And I know it's very impactful to the people that read their weekly newsletter and listen to their online posts every day. We've got an educated population as it comes to our students at all Stoughton schools. A gentleman earlier said, we've got all these platforms. We've got Facebook. We got the internet. We've got the town crier. We've got all of these things. The issue is not the platform. The issue is the content. There's no one at town hall or for all of town government whose primary job is external communication to the citizens of Stoughton. And respectfully, that is why misinformation is allowed to make its way around. So what this proposal is for us to hire the exact same position that is in the schools by a true young professional, Mr. Pickett, and do the same thing. Communicate hourly with the town's constituent group, non-school constituent group, stakeholder group, about everything. The only time we have found the time to actively, hourly communicate is in a time of crises, when the tax bills went out on the wrong day, when our water supply was threatened, when the Birchmore case came before town. Communication is not supposed to be an event. It's supposed to be an ongoing process. And all we have to do is look to the school department to see how it can be done and done well. Now, I'll say to you, there's a direct correlation between transparency, communication, and civic engagement. Nobody's going to argue that the civic engagement in Stoughton is at an all-time high. It's at a pretty low state. If I may finish, sir. If I may, please, just a second. If we improve the level of communication and transparency, there's less space for misinformation that we get from various sources across this town that some people thrive on. That's all we're asking now. If you believe that we're doing a great job of communicating with you about everything that's going on in town, we'll take that as a compliment. You can vote that down. I don't think we are doing a great job at communicating. Thank you for indulging me.
So you're saying...
Okay, thank you.
You're saying that you cannot do that personally as part of your job?
It is nobody... I'm saying that communication is a full-time job. It's nobody's full-time job. And if you're directing that at me, I would challenge anybody to follow me around all day. I work a good 75 hours a week, and I do write a lot of stuff whenever I can. But you deserve someone who's communicating with you all the time. If you don't feel that way, then that's your choice. I accept that. But I believe you deserve someone that's going to provide you with real content on an ongoing basis. But
Okay.
I can take your point of view.
Thank you. I think Pat Colburn was next.
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. Through you to the town manager. Will this position be posted with a job description and qualifications?
Like every single job, absolutely, it'll be posted. We'll interview all candidates. We'll narrow it down to 3. A selection committee will be selected. If anybody's got a relationship with one of the applicants, that person cannot be on the selection committee.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. John Rock, go ahead, identify yourself.
John Rock, Precinct 3. Tell me another $131 million agency or corporation that doesn't have a communications position. It's only $65,000. To me, it's a no-brainer. We're a huge, well, not huge, but we're a large company, and it's just it goes with the territory. So I urge you to keep this position. I think the town manager has other things to do than to, think about communications and come up with the content. I think he needs a communications director. So I urge you to support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. David Lloyd, did you want to talk about that? Or you?
Yeah, I'm on this topic, yes.
Okay, I wasn't
yeah,
sure.
Thank you for asking. Through you, David Lurie, Precinct 6. I wanted to make a motion. I'm not sure if you need me to describe it first, but on the communication coordinator, I'd like to remove the $65,000 from the communication coordinator listed in the salaries and just move it into tax cut for the town as excess capacity and I'll tell you why. When we first had this...
Well, let's have the motion first.
All right, yeah. And I
What's
just
the
need a
motion? You wanna-
The motion is to remove the $65,000 out of the budget.
Okay, move the $65,000 from the communications director line, is that what it is?
Correct, coordinator, yeah.
Coordinator line. To, you want to move it somewhere, or you want?
Well, I want it to go just into unexpended allocation. It's not going to be spent. It's going to be a tax cut. It goes to the excess capacity that was discussed earlier.
Just 1 second. Okay, just move it out.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second? I heard a second. Who seconded it? I take Mr. Kirby, I'm sorry. Mr. Kirby seconded that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so
Mr. Laurie.
very simply, when I was working on the Finance Committee on this budget, I was actually in favor of this position because of the way that the town manager spoke about the position, because I wanted him to be able to do his core work in digging into all the projects and regular day in and day out work that he does, because he has a huge list of tasks on his board that he has to do. So I said, all right, well, if he can move the task of updating content in different areas and all that kind of thing, great. Sounds like, a Jeff Pickett-like person in the town side, no problem. And then all of a sudden, along with him was a different person in the room who was petitioning to not have the person just do that. It was to correct the mistakes that people were saying in the marketplace. So we were going to have this government person telling individuals in the town whether or not they were right or wrong about their attitudes or beliefs about anything that was coming before the town. And I was like, that's not what I heard from the town manager. So I'm thinking, all of a sudden, I'm not in favor. But by the way, before I give up the floor, is the fact that I'm hearing now tonight that it actually is. But there was a letter sent, a request went in to say, what is the job description? I'd like to see a written job description. But instead of getting a job description, it came back as described by the select board leader along with me during the presentation. That's who you should defer to for just getting a job description. So now I'm thinking, okay, now it's back to the other version of the job description. So we don't really even have a job description in this town. And ultimately, it's going to fall on the town manager's, desk as to what gets out there and what's proper. I just don't think the town needs it.
Okay.
I vote that we take this money out.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Carlton.
respectfully, I'm not going to be held accountable for somebody said somewhere to Dave in my office. Last time I checked, I am the town manager. The town manager's job description will be what I say it is, and it will be not to control free speech. I never said that. I resent that, David.
I didn't say
You
those
said
words.
control, government controlling what we believe to be true.
Mr. Carlton, and Mr. Laurie, no cross debate.
Thank
Address
you.
it to the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. But, that comment is just a little bit off target. I will say this. I don't want to belabor the point. If you think we're doing a wonderful job of communicating with you, then don't vote for it. I don't think we are. I think you deserve better. And I think you need it every day. And to the gentleman that yells loud around here, second, if you want to go to certain sources for your information, then do that. But it is our job to
Carlton.
correct the record when that information is incorrect. That's what I'm referring to.
All right. Anybody else on the motion?
Paul Bellavo, Precinct 3.
Yes.
I've attended several different meetings, select board meetings, zoning board, planning board.
This is on the motion, though.
Huh?
This is on the motion.
It's on the motion.
Okay, you're going to discuss on the motion?
Yeah, I'm discussing
Okay.
the motion.
Just wait.
Well, okay, so
You're
the
talking
issue,
about the boards and all
the
that?
issue is that we do need a communications consultant, because at all these meetings that I go to all the time, everybody's standing up and saying, where's the information? I never heard this. Nobody told me anything. I can't find it here. I can't find it there. You need someone to work on this small issue that we have in the town with all of our different select boards, et cetera.
Thank you, Paul.
I'd like to have a closing comment with that.
No.
I just want to simply say.
No.
Give us
Hold
a
on.
job description.
Mr. Dave Laurie, hold on.
Yeah.
You made your motion. I'm going to hear, anybody else have any discussion on the motion before we go to a vote? That's all I want to do. I mean, Mr. Laurie, you did fine with the motion. We're just going to, there's no summary to the motion. We're not going to go down that road.
To the previous.
Please
speaker,
identify yourself, please.
Arnie Feinberg, Precinct 6. To the previous speaker, I'd like to see a description of this job.
All right, we're talking just about the motion. Okay, description, something else down the road.
Mr. Moderator, I do believe the job description is in Phase 2 of your package. We used Mr. Pickett's job description as the model.
Okay. Can we, this could be contentious. Could we set this up? Let me see if I get this right, Mr. Laurie. You said you want to move $65,000 for the communication coordinator to unexpended funds? Just take it out of the budget? Okay. So we're going to reduce town manager's budget by $65,000. It will come from the communication coordinator position. All right. And who was the second on that?
Just a point of information, Mr.
Joe
Moderator.
Suarez? Yes, Mr. Anzavino.
I believe he said he wanted to put that, based on previous discussions, into the surplus line that's on this sheet. I thought that's
Let
what
me
his point
ask
was.
town council if we can clarify that.
I think, Mr. Laurie, you were saying you wanted just not to raise that amount in taxation, so it would reduce the amount that you're raising in taxation. Not to add it to any other budget, just not to raise that money, so increase your taxes by $65,000 or like that.
Okay, thank you, town council. All right. Right. Just trying to, simple clarity, that's all I'm looking for. Thank you, Mr. Anzavino. Let's give the acting town clerk a few minutes to set that up if she could. This will be a simple majority vote. What's that, John? She has it right. Okay. There'll be simple majority vote. Are we ready? Let me know when you're ready. Okay, the motion's up on the screen. Please vote accordingly. Simple majority. Yes, no, or abstain. You have 20 seconds and counting down. 13, 12. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion to move the $65,000 fails. 47 yes, 85 no, 0 abstentions. Thank you all for voting. All right, let's go back to, I think next up is Lisa Lyons. We're still in the town manager's budget. We can did you have any questions or anything, Lisa, or are you done? You covered it? You're all set? Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Let's move along. So the town manager's budget is now closed. FinCom had no holds. That's closed. Town accountant no holds, that's closed. Auditing department, no holds, that's closed.
The next is town clerk, Mr. Moderator.
Town
Page
clerk.
110.
All right, there's a hold from Peter Murphy and John Enzavino. Mr. Murphy, identify yourself, please.
Peter Murphy, Precinct 2. Question I have for the town clerk's department. We're going to have a special election coming up on June 11th for the schools. Is there money in the budget to fund that election?
Can anybody answer that for us?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Coulter.
Through you, sir, to Peter. No, we did not anticipate, that's in this fiscal year.
Actually, yes, I was just
Yeah.
corrected on that.
We did not anticipate that. There were two options. The first one is we'll seek a transfer from the Finance Committee. It'll be about plus or minus $30,000. Or the Building Committee has suggested that they can find some money in the construction budget in the building. You can't do that? Well, then they would, no wonder they offered.
What's the
We will find it either in this year's budget, or we will get a transfer from the Finance Committee, but we're not looking for additional funds right now from this town meeting.
And the question would be, what's an election cost of that nature?
About $30,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just a point of information, Mr. Moderator.
This
We're
is on
holding-
your-
We're having that hearing Wednesday night.
I can,
We're having the hearing or the meeting on the transfer Wednesday evening
this
at
is
6 o'clock.
Finance Committee's having a
For the
meeting.
Finance Committee. We've had a request for that transfer, and we're meeting Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock to consider that.
Okay, thank you for the information, Mr. Enzavino. Now, you had a hold on this, town clerks. Please identify yourself and
John Enzavino, Precinct 4, Finance Committee, Vice Chairman. I have the same question I had during our hearings and through you to the town manager. There was an issue raised about the staffing at the town clerk's office and a statute, 115, that required the town clerk to do certain functions if you had a part-time veterans agent. And at the time, we were told council had been in contact with the state because they disagreed with the interpretation. I've yet to see anything come back, and I'm just wondering if we have seen anything come back or if things have changed that they don't need that. And the purpose being, we made a full-time position last year that's been cut to half-time for many different reasons, but I'm just wondering if we ever got a response from the state.
would anybody be able to answer that? Mr. Coulter?
Yes, Mark will handle the questions about the clerk. I'll handle the question about the veterans. For the members, we've got a very experienced employee in the Veterans Department. When our veterans agent left, we elevated her to department head, and she's doing a magnificent job. The state raised a question, and then we hired a part-time vets agent to sign off on the federal disbursements. The state raised the question, because they hadn't seen that done before, can we do that? So we wrote Mr. Winter wrote a legal opinion where in the statute we were allowed to do that. We have not heard back in 3 months from them, but last week our department head was certified as a veterans agent. Strike that. Not as a veterans agent, but a veteran certified agent. So we're within the law. The state never responded back. They thought they could pound the table and say, don't do that. Brian Winter responded with a brilliant opinion piece, and they've never told us they disagree with us. So we're good for now. If they respond back and say, no, we can't let you do it, we'll respond. But it saved us a tremendous amount of money. Our veterans are getting far better service than they've ever had. And we're within the law. Just that nobody thought of it doesn't mean we shouldn't be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you for that response.
You okay with that? Okay. Anybody else on that department? Seeing none. Next hold was the police department, Department 210. I'm going to ask if we can postpone that till Wednesday when the police chief is here. I don't think we're going to conclude the budget tonight. Yeah, we're going to be busy on Wednesday evening, I understand.
Could I just ask, what happens if we finish the budget tonight? we'll just still leave it open for that?
No, if we can finish the budget tonight, I'll ask the town manager if we can answer your questions on the police department. It's 10 o'clock already. Let's see how we do.
Never mind. Okay, thank you.
We do have the information. If required to answer questions, we'll, between Mark and Biz and I, and Brian Holmes in the back, we will answer questions. The chief would love to be here this evening.
Yeah, let's postpone it till, let's see if we get it done tonight, we'll go back to the police budget. But we still have to do the schools. There's lots of budgets we have to talk about. All right, so we're just going to postpone that to May 15th. Next up, Biz, I think civilian dispatches, is that what you got next? Yep, I think we have that next. Pat
Yes, it's
Colburn?
Page 116, civilian dispatches.
Civilian, Pat Colburn
Or
and Sandra
central
Souza held
dispatching.
those.
I'm going to speak to this.
Okay, I apologize, Cynthia Walsh. What page are we on?
116,
116. Turn to page 116. Civilian dispatches, please.
civilian dispatches.
And that's okay to
Yes, sir.
discuss?
Yep.
Since it's kind of police?
Yeah, well, actually, that's in the police, that's also in the police department budget.
We can respond to that, though it's a separate department within.
You
the
want
police.
to take that question?
Certainly, it's very simple.
Okay,
That's one individual. We reduced that staffing from 11 to 1, and that civilian dispatch is just providing support services, administrative support services at the front desk for the police staff. It's not, we're not doing any dispatch in the department.
okay, Pat, did you have a question on that?
I did, thank you, Mr. Moderator, to the town manager. My question was more, and you're going to hear this several more times, so don't be surprised, but we funded this department, we moved them out. So did we realize savings from moving them out? Is that in the give back sheet that I haven't seen yet? But what's been done with the extra money that we funded the budget with?
Sure, Pat, I appreciate you asking that. It was a savings of about $900,000 a year, and the debate we had for quite a long time the other night about the contracts, the labor contracts, that's how we were able to fund those labor contracts and be competitive in the marketplace. That's why we did the 911. That, the investment in technology, and the improved service. But it saves about $900,000 a year.
So my question then becomes to the attorney. I was under the impression all the years I was on the finance committee that you could not transfer money from one budget to another unless it was the last 3 months of the year, approved by the select board and the finance committee. And I don't believe that was done, or was it done?
No, we're not transferring anything. The money that's left over from the current fiscal year for the dispatches will go back into free cash. It's just
Okay, so
unused money.
So was the whole $900,000 put into free cash, is what I'm asking?
We kept we had 4 dispatches for about 4 months, and then we had we had 1 on board for the last 4 months. So it was spread out throughout the year. They didn't all go at once. Fire went first, and then police went second.
Okay, so there'll be a significant amount to free cash.
Oh, I venture to guess it'd be at least half of that $900,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also, Sandra Souza, you held that one? You're all set? Everybody good on that department? We're going to move on. That department is now closed. Next up, I believe fire department. We agree on that? Okay,
Page 117.
page
Fire and rescue.
117, fire department, Eric Coleman. You held that along with Sandra Souza?
Eric Coleman, Precinct 5, to our fire chief. How many hours of overtime are we looking at?
How many hours?
Chief, could you identify yourself to the board?
Eric Coleman.
Sure, I apologize. Michael Carroll, Fire Chief. I apologize. I made it. As the eyes go, I made my spreadsheet a little bit bigger. So we based that overtime on average. We took quarterly of what we typically used, and then we applied the new CBA to
that. We did cut it back, I believe, to the town manager. By the time we met with the town manager, we cut it back approximately $50,000. We're in the process of hiring 5 vacated positions through retirement. So we kind of worked off last year's quarter when we started building this out in October. And again, just applied the increase on the CBA to it.
So the new hires would decrease the amount of overtime that you...
Once, no, yes, once they're academy trained though. They need to be through the fire academy before they can count as staffing.
That's good, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Sandra Souza, you had a question on the fire department?
Sandra Souza, Precinct 1. I'm reading this correctly here. In this, can you hear me?
Yes,
Sorry.
go ahead.
In this font size number 2 here. The education incentive pay, it's increased by almost 200%, 194%, for approximately $150,000. Is this based on, and I know you're still working on the contract with the firefighters, is this based on the new contract, or is this?
So last year, I believe approximately June of last year, but I know after town meeting, they did sign into a new 3-year contract where they did increase their education incentive. I believe it's 8%. I want to say 8% and maybe 10% for a master's, 8% for a bachelor's. So this is this correlates with the new CBA, the current CBA, which plays out to 2026.
2026. Okay, I was just asking in relation to the police that
Sure.
it just, you know.
Yep.
Because I was thinking, you know, is there going to be more, another?
No, I completely
you know,
understand. Yep.
Yeah. And then, just forgive me, I'm trying to find these little teeny numbers. Is this wellness coordinator a new position?
So the wellness coordinator is a new position within the town. The salary is split between us and the police.
Okay. All right. Can you tell me
I can do it, but you.
what?
Oh,
What?
no, this is a town manager had.
that is?
Town manager had, I guess, championed this position and worked with myself and Chief McNamara in putting this position in, but I'll let him speak more to that.
I had it circled in the police department budget too, but we, you know, skipped ahead, so.
Mr. Moderator, may I?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Coulter.
The wellness coordinator is a position, it's a proactive position designed at keeping police and firemen and women healthy, as opposed to waiting till they have a crisis where peer support, Norfolk County peer support gets involved. It's a movement across the Commonwealth. I've got one son who's a cop and one son who's head of peer support for Boston EMS. He's a captain. What they're finding is they've got 14 people in the Boston Peer Support Department. Those are people in clinics, in rehab, in psych wards, people who could not deal with the stresses, the unique stresses that come with those two professions. So the industry has evolved not away from peer support, because it's always going to be necessary, but for a more proactive approach to keeping the men and women of our police and fire department mentally and physically healthy. So this one coordinator is providing fitness programs, nutrition programs, therapy where necessary, contacts with our health services, and the objective is to keep our folks healthy and out of trouble. And it was all triggered by a year ago this time, where we lost one of our very young patrolmen, very tragically. It didn't have to happen, and nobody saw it coming. So this is our response to trying to keep our people safe and healthy and out of harm's way.
Thank you. Can I, Mr. Moderator, am I
Sure,
able
go ahead.
to follow up with just
a quick follow-up. Go ahead.
Okay, so I guess I'm curious about the position itself, and in terms of where you're splitting the position, how that will be handled and, things like, is this person already hired on the job? I know this was asked about the other position for communications. Is this a hired position already, or is it in process? And qualifications, because you're talking
Sure.
about not just physical, like an exercise a physiologist, but you're talking physical, emotional, nutrition. There's a lot of qualifications in that in terms of, we're talking education tonight and the other night last week. What kind of qualifications would this person have or need, and how that time would be split, and then, retirement-wise, would that be a police or firefighter position, or is it a lay person? So I have all those kinds of...
Sure, I think I can answer that.
And I do
briefly.
think it's important in terms of especially emotional, mental health with, all the things that our EMS firefighters and police face. So thank you.
Thank you. Let me try to unpack that very quickly. The person has been an employee for the town of Stoughton for 10 years. He was a firefighter, he was a police officer who I highly recruited. He was leaving the profession at 9 years and 6 months before his vesting period. He was leaving the department because he felt the job was changing him in a very negative way. And so when I heard that we had an incredibly respected patrolman who was a health nut, and I mean that in the most positive way, a nutrition expert, a person who is a very trusted and dear friend to almost everybody in the police and fire department, I called him and I asked him if he'd like to stay within the organization. And he had not even considered that. He had already accepted another job. We worked it over for probably a month. I hooked him up with wellness coordinators. I hooked him up with peer support people. He put a lot of time, energy, and thought into whether he wanted a career in wellness. What does he do every day with police and fire? He works all 3 shifts, works a flex schedule. So he's at shift changes at the fire department and at the police department. Half the time he's sitting around building relationships with people, because that's what it takes to get firemen and policemen to open up, is a relationship, a trusting relationship. They could be talking about nutrition, they could be talking about the Boston Red Sox, but then all of a sudden 9 men and 1 woman will join a road racing club to stay healthy. They will come to him and say, could you refer me to somebody within the network? He's not going to provide any therapy. He's not going to provide any professional services. He's a resource for getting people help before they get in trouble. And, this is the place to set the record straight. There are people who love mischief, and this person happens to be related to one of our selectmen. I recruited that person. We had done the interviews before that selectman even knew I had spoken to that person. But that's how things get going. He went through the same vetting process. And we got a few applicants, and we interviewed them. He proved to be the best person before his dad even knew he was considering the job. And that's for the record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. I was going to talk about this in police, but since we're talking about it here, if I could just ask my question so we don't have to do it again. I appreciate you opening up about that. My concern was that we created a position for a specific individual. Did you post the position, and where, and what were the qualifications? Because I understand if somebody's well-respected, and I don't know the person, I'm not against the position, but it's like we're going back to the olden days where we're creating positions for people and everybody else has to jump through hoops just to get an interview. So
if the
if you
moderator...
could give me a little bit about that.
Thank you, Pat. If the moderator will allow me, I'll hit the first. I didn't answer one of the last questions. Yes, the position was posted. There were applicants. We interviewed applicants from 3 states. One of the requirements were they either come from the fire service or the police service, because if you know police and firemen, they're not going to talk to anybody that's not a policeman or a fireman. We asked that they have some background in a wellness program, which this individual did. One of them was a colonel in a police department, but we knew that it wasn't a good fit. We interviewed them all. Anybody who had, and we do this in every hire. every single hire. There's a committee of people who are not involved with the job, who don't know the candidates. They interview them, they score them. You can ask for the scoring of any new hire we make. I know there's a history here of nepotism. I can only promise you that while I'm here, that will never happen. Now, that doesn't mean we will not hire a relative. If they're the most competent, qualified, capable person, then they'll be offered the position, but it will not be while I'm here because they know somebody. I promise you that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lurie, do you have a question in this
through you,
category?
Mr. Moderator, David Lurie, Precinct 6. I was curious about the position myself. I was going to save it also for the police discussion. I want to let you know that somebody in my family went through William James and their psychology program and referred me to different professors who studied this very topic. They're out in the community, typically with larger towns and cities, studying how can we do better for the public safety people in each of our towns and cities. And they came away with saying that this is a must-have kind of position. You really want this kind of program. The thing that really the right questions that in the future we should be asking, and maybe we could save the question for when the police budget comes up, is are you lowering your workers' comp budget? Are you lowering the number of complaints that come into the police department?
Mr. Lurie, please stay on this wellness coordinator.
It is, because the wellness program...
You're for the wellness coordinator,
It
correct?
directly impacts the relationship that these public safety people have in the community, and there are metrics that we should be measuring, and that's how you look at it in the future. But it is a must-have position. We shouldn't even blink. It should be just something you automatically feel like we need to make sure that we're doing this. We need to make sure we're doing it right. I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Moderator, over here, this way.
Right, Mr. Anzavino?
I just have a question for a
this-
previous speaker.
On the wellness?
Well, yeah, it's on the wellness, but
Sure.
you pushed off the police department, and if that's the only question that person had, then we should be able to release that budget. So I was just wondering if that was the only question for police.
I had 3 people who put a hold on the police department. So since the hour is getting late, it would be easier, I believe, in my opinion, that put off the police department. I had a request from the police chief if we could postpone the discussion of her department until she comes back on Wednesday.
All right, well, I think Wednesday's pretty full. I don't think you're going to get it on Wednesday either.
Well, I think we'll do it, do a procedure, yeah, but we can talk about that on Wednesday evening. Thank you very much. Next up, well, I think we might be able to answer what time we have here. 10:20. We can do one more, can we not? Yeah. Well, I'm not going to recognize you, sir. I'm not recognizing you right now. It's only 10:20. We go to 10:30. Next up, if I... Well, that's true, but next up, correct me at the table here, next up is regional schools. Mr. Von Anokian, you held that?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Von Anokian, Precinct 4. For regional schools, Southeastern, $1,596,547. I would move that we reduce that by $47,453 for a new total of $1,549,094. And we would increase the Aggie budget from $36,000 up to $58,591. This would leave $24,862 left over.
All right.
That I would, well, the
What
reason...
what page are you on?
122, 121.
122.
Excuse me,
Turn to
Mr.
page
Moderator.
122.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator. So you're all set with...
I'm sorry, yeah.
No problem. I just wanted to...
I apologize. Yeah.
All right. Just wanted to make sure that stamp was down.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're all set, we're closed.
All right.
Fire department's closed. My apologies on that. All right, I'm going to ask Robin Zoll, you're a member of the school committee?
Mr. Moderator, could I just complete my reasoning on
Well,
this?
let's have a walk down. for
Okay.
her. Just
Thank
give her
you.
a moment. You want to come down here, Robin? All right. Yeah, so can I have that motion? You made a motion, Vaughn, right?
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead and, can you,
but I wanted to finish the 24,862 would be left over for Article 17 for stabilization.
okay.
Yeah, the motion is to reduce the Southeastern and increase the Aggie.
Okay, reduce Southeastern by how much?
47,453 for a new total of $1,549,094.
Okay, reduce Southeastern by 47,453.
That's correct, and then increase the Aggie from 36,000 up to 58,591 for an increase of 22,591. Thank you. Do we have a second on that?
Okay.
I second.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, seconded by John Zavino. Robin, did you want to
Okay.
have any comment on that?
I'm Robin Zoll, Precinct 7. I'm the school committee representative from Southeastern, representing Stoughton. Southeastern Regional is at net school spending. We cannot cut our budget. If we cut our budget and if the budget is not passed, you risk it going back to the legislature or the governor, and it could possibly be increased. Yes.
Elizabeth, did you have comment?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, if I may.
Sure.
During the budgeting process, when we were finishing off the budgeting process, we had, in the original, overestimated the regional school budgets. So what we're doing is we're taking the regional school budget as per the letter dated February 28th, making your budget $1,549,094, which is less than what we had originally anticipated. And then we're making the regional, the technical school, or agricultural school, I'm sorry, to $58,591. So both budgets are intact as was requested, but these requests came in after we were working on the budget. So both schools are intact. It's not reducing anything per your letters of request.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Moderator, could I?
Yes, Mr. Nokia.
That's what I was trying to explain, is that the new number for Southeastern actually matches the number that Southeastern needs. It's not a reduction of their budget.
Okay.
It matches the number that
So it's not a reduction in the bottom line, is what you're saying?
No, it matches the number that Southeastern is assessing us. They're requesting for this. So to a previous speaker, through you, Mr. Moderator, we're not reducing it below what they're requesting. We're reducing it to what they're requesting.
There was a higher number in the budget than what was requested.
You want to just use the microphone, John?
We received information that the Southeast Regional, the number was less than what was in the budget, and for the Norfolk Aggie, they needed more than what was in the budget. So we're trying to decrease what's in the budget for the Southeast Regional to match what they needed, and increase the Aggie to what they needed, and there's a net decrease for the total budget of $24,862, which is going to look to put into stabilization. It's very simple. We got information in after the fact that one could go down, one needed to go up. Based on the number of students that were looking and applying, that's what the numbers come out to. We're not reducing what Southeast had assessed us. We're reducing the budget to what they did assess us.
Okay. As long as it's what we had requested, that's fine.
You okay with that, Robin?
Yes.
Okay.
You will find this information in your budget book under education. It's the last section. The last page has both the Southeastern and it also has the agricultural school. So both these figures are in here, and the net change, just for informational purposes, makes our surplus right now at $28,798.78. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on that?
We have the numbers again.
I think, John, did you second that? Yeah, John, you got clarification on that, Elliot? John Anzavino second on that.
We have the numbers again.
Can we have the numbers one more time, please? Slowly.
The new number for Southeastern would be $1,549,094. So 1549094. And then the new number for the Aggie would be $58,591. 58591. The new total for the regionals would be $1,607,685. 1607685.
Thank you for reading that very slowly.
You're very welcome, Mr.
Thank you.
Moderator.
The updated percentages too?
Could you also, how much we move it into stabilization?
24,862. That
Mr.
would be in
Moderator?
addition to the other stabilization money.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes,
if I
go right
may,
ahead.
because the budget is chronically moving, if we can hold off moving anything else into the stabilization fund until we're complete with the budget, because right now we have a surplus of $28,798, which, although not a lot of money, helps to reduce the tax rate. Thank you.
Okay. Well, my motion is to make those changes, and we'll leave the 24,862, and later on, I'll just make the motion to add that to the stabilization, if you would feel better about that, Mr. Moderator.
So, Biz, you want to just leave the 24,862 on the table? Is that what you want to do?
At this moment in time, until we're complete with the budget, I think that would be a prudent approach, because we have a lot more to go through.
I'm fine with that, thank you.
Thank you.
You fine with that? Okay.
Let's vote.
Yes. Yeah. On the motion, any other discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dave Lurie, Precinct 6. So I just want to, I'm also in agreement with the financial director, who's stating that it should be just reduced as a tax cut because stabilization is not on the floor. And I just wonder about whether even at that point in time, why we want stabilization as the focus. We heard earlier in a previous budget that we were getting 3 times as much money in stabilization as we had a decade ago. And before that, I understood that we needed a lot of money in reserves in order to improve our bond rating. I just want to make sure my head is clear as to, like, is a tax cut better than stabilization or vice versa?
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. This isn't on the topic. This is,
It is.
we
It's on
are
the-
bringing up the stabilization.
I'm reading it.
Excuse me, I believe, through you, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Moderator, my
Wait.
question is
Hold
that.
on, Carolyn, hold on. We don't interrupt the speaker. Hang on a minute.
Mr.
Mr. Laurie,
Moderator,
can you
through
just
you,
quickly-
I'm talking to the very topic that's in black and white on the screen, which is to be moved to stabilization fund. And I question why we want to focus on stabilization at all.
Well, the question
Or
is,
are
we're
we
gonna put
removing, or is the previous, is the
Mr. Laurie,
motion being
Mr.
changed?
Mr. Laurie, hang on a
Yeah.
minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
The 24,862 is just going to be put on the table for the time.
Mr. Moderator, I said I was all right about that.
You're okay putting it on the table?
I said that a little bit
Right,
ago.
so we don't
Yeah,
have to
I
talk
said that
about
a while ago.
stabilization right
I'm
now.
fine with that.
All right, so I just wanted to make a point that it's not such a bad idea to give a tax cut.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. All right. Okay, before everybody leaves, I'm going to ask for a voice vote to approve this motion. It was seconded by John Inzavino. Everybody clear on the motion? By voice vote. I just need a simple majority, right? Simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the motion passes. I declare that a vote. Please turn in your clickers. Don't forget, there's a Disability Commission survey. If you haven't done it yet, it's outside on the table.
A motion to adjourn to
Oh, we need
Wednesday
a
night at
motion
7
to
o'clock.
adjourn.
So move, Mr. Moderator.
Second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it.